The night sky was pitch black, lit only by a single street lamp. A guy stood all alone in front of a drink cooler. He reached out and grabbed a cold bottle of soda. The clerk politely asked him if he was getting a cola. Dopamine Addict was a bit caught off guard but quickly replied, "Oh yeah." Condensation dripped down the side of the cold bottle. But suddenly out of nowhere the other guy struck him and yelled out, "Excellent choice." His eyes shot wide open in pure shock. Everything faded to black as he narrated his own story. "I am a total dopamine addict." The soda bottle shattered, spilling everywhere across the ground. Let us rewind to exactly 1 hour ago. His long fingers tapped rapidly away at the keyboard. "I will say it one more time." He summed himself up in just one simple sentence. "I am a total dopamine addict." Idols, rock bands, the Premier League romance of the Three Kingdoms, extreme sports, martial arts, parkour. I threw myself into all of these just to get that sweet hit of dopamine. But when those things stopped giving me a rush, I turned to online gaming. He stared at his computer screen and muttered, "I am completely stuck." He told himself to try just one more time. To be honest, I never really wanted to become a gamer in the first place. It just reminded me of my mom, who would completely ignore my phone calls whenever she was gaming, leaving me with 31 missed calls. But once I finally gave it a try, I was absolutely hooked. As I kept chasing even stronger thrills, I ended up beating every single post-apocalyptic survival game out there. But there was one specific game that gave me the ultimate rush. That game was called Apocalypse Safe Zone. He continued explaining the lore. The backstory goes like this. A massive meteor strike plunged the Earth right into an ice age, and nearly all of humanity was wiped out completely. But after a very long time, a relatively warm interglacial period finally arrived, and the lucky few who survived built safe zones to cling onto dear life. Well, at least that is how the main storyline goes. There are 9 safe zones in total named Kelly Cola, Cigar, Jeter, and Beer, along with Chicken Snow, Knifer Lab, and Unicorn. He muttered in total frustration, saying that method was not working either. Players can actually choose their starting location from 8 different zones excluding Knifer, and once they pick their starting zone, they begin the game in that area as a 10-year-old kid. Once you survive the early stages of the game, you have to prepare for doomsday until you turn 20 years old. Because the very second you turn 20, the second great cataclysm officially begins. You could call this entire preparation and growth period the first phase of the game. But the game only gets truly exciting after that point. He came up with a different strategy, deciding to try taking out this specific target first. What he was talking about right now was surviving once the second cataclysm officially kicks off. You have to fight for your life against all the other zones. And that is exactly when you realize why your starting zone matters so much. Because the harder your starting zone is, the higher the stats you can actually earn. On top of that, the guys coming from the locked Knifer zone are completely out of their minds. If they spot a survivor from a lower difficulty zone, they will try to take them out on sight. So you really have to choose your starting area carefully. But for me, ever since the very first time I played Safe Zone, those crazy mechanics and seeing these insane players were exactly what kept me completely hooked all this time. But even that ends today. Dopamine Addict clenched his fist, and finally, he looked at the computer screen and thought to himself, "I have seen the ending of every single safe zone. Mission accomplished. I have cleared everything, including the hidden area, Knifer." Dopamine Addict took off his headphones at a leisurely pace. Checking his phone, he told himself, "It is time to get this started." On the website was a headline, "Dopamine Addict posted a starting guide for the hidden safe zone, Knifer. I want as many people to experience this game as possible, so I regularly post guides on community forums. You could call it a little hobby of mine." His phone quickly buzzed with notifications. Dopamine Addict glanced over and judged silently. Classic burner account behavior. Home Protector is always the first to comment. Home Protector wrote that Psycho Den is actually a starting area. No wonder it has a difficulty rating even when locked. Home Protector added, "Holy crap, I am reading it now, and what the heck is this? What kind of guide tells players to massacre all the residents just to start the game?" Dopamine Addict frowned slightly reading this. He sure is leaving a lot of comments. He continued reading the comments. Home Protector wrote, "But the people in that area kill everyone, including women and children. Can you really start there?" Room Corner, hubby replied, "Instead of asking stupid questions, just read the guide, please." Dopamine Addict thought to himself, "I usually delete hate comments immediately, but I will let this one slide just this once." T-Bastard asked, "But how do you unlock the hidden area?" Dopamine Addict replied, "It is simple. You just need to achieve all the starting endings for the other areas." Room Corner hubby retorted, "Easier said than done, damn it." Dopamine Addict responded, "I am pretty sure I posted starting guides for all the other areas too." Room Corner hubby wrote, "Do you seriously think people are going to follow those guides? This guy is completely insane." Dopamine Addict read the comment thoughtfully. Then he flinched when he saw, "Dopamine Addict, you have been blocked." That notification successfully made Dopamine Addict yell out, "What the heck? That jerk actually blocked me." He kept scrolling and reading comments. Home Protector wrote, "To be fair, your guides are insanely hard. A 10-year-old starter character massacring safe zone residents does not make any sense at all. Safe Zone 8 wrote, anyway, addicts' guides are just for a fun read. Are my guides really that hard? At least this person is thanking me. Taejongtae's Beyonce wrote, thanks for the great guides, as always, bro. I am sure my guides will be useful to someone. Dopamine Addict was still glued to his computer screen. Anyway, I am finally done with this game. Walking on the night streets, Dopamine Addict asked himself, what should I do now? He seriously felt that his dopamine levels were already dropping. I need to find a new thrill, but where? While lost in random thoughts, Dopamine Addict spotted something. He was drawn to the glowing lights. Was there always a convenience store here? The night was getting darker. The items on display inside included gummy bears and cola cigarettes, beer-fried chicken, a kitchen knife, and even a minigun. This place looks exactly like a safe zone. Did they do a promotional collab with a convenience store? Dopamine Addict took a look around and marveled internally. No way, this game does not even have a Korean version, so a collaboration is impossible. Most likely the store owner is a hardcore fan of Safe Zone who imported all these weird items, but even so, trying to run a business with these goods is pure madness. Maybe I should give them some free promotion. Home Protector wrote, where is this place? Direct message me the address. At that moment, Dopamine Addict was drawn by the voice of the person across from him. Are you getting this cola? He was slightly surprised, but quickly replied, yes, I am. But deep down, Dopamine Addict was thinking, wait a minute, is he being sarcastic because I took too many pictures while only buying a single bottle of cola? Suddenly, Dopamine Addict realized something was wrong. He picked up the soda bottle to inspect it, while the other person raised a weapon with the intent to strike down. But this cola bottle does not seem to have a barcode. A heavy thud rang out, accompanied by a comment. What an excellent choice. Dopamine Addict collapsed helplessly to the ground. The surroundings gradually changed. Dopamine Addict woke up with a completely different appearance. He jumped up, looking around, and heard a shout, what the heck is this? It seems I have just been given a brand new source of dopamine. Did I really just transmigrate into that trash game Safe Zone? Dopamine Addict looked at the person next to him and remarked inwardly, and to top it off, I am with a jerk who swears every time he opens his mouth. A conversation was taking place, so you also chose the cola can at that convenience store. And your account name is Room Corner Hubby. Dopamine Addict observed the other guy and continued his remarks. That rude keyboard warrior, huh? Yeah, running away again, what an annoying guy. Room Corner Hubby was slightly taken aback hearing that rude. Here we go, wait, a loser, is that internet nerd done yet? So much for attention, however, Dopamine Addict did not feel anything was wrong at all. So what, you social outcast? Corner Room Husband just gave a simple explanation. Everyone swears like that on the internet these days, but what about you? What is your username? The question made him freeze for a moment. Me, well, to be honest, I never expected to get sucked into this game alongside some guy I had already blocked. Corner Room Husband had commented, how is anyone supposed to follow this strategy guide? This guy is out of his mind. And on top of that, a message popped up, saying Dopamine Addict has blocked you. This was just going to lead to a really awkward situation, so I absolutely could not tell him that I was Dopamine Addict. So I had no other choice, I would just have to borrow a name for now. A small smile crept onto his face as he replied, I am T-Buster. The two of them kept chatting as they walked. So you also got the shipping address from Home Protector. Dopamine Addict gave a quick nod. Yeah, what a liar. After talking things over, Corner Room Husband started getting more and more terrified. Why is this happening to me? This place is definitely the Apocalypse Safe Zone game. Is Home Protector out of his mind? Why would he leak that information? I had been wondering how Corner Room Husband even found that convenience store and ended up getting transported in here. But it turned out that Home Protector had leaked the address I gave him. And this guy went there and got dragged right into this whole mess. Dopamine Addict continued to ponder. If that really was the case, then it brought up a new theory. Could there possibly be other players who got sucked into this game too? And if you think about regions like Cigarette or Unicorn, once the second apocalypse begins, we might actually have to fight against players from other areas. That means we will have to put our lives on the line and fight against other people who were brought into this world. Dopamine Addict closed his eyes and decided to shift his train of thought. No, I need to worry about that later. Surviving right now is the most important thing. Just then, Corner Room Husband suddenly got all excited and cried out, but hey, if we got transported into a game, do you think we can use the game system? Dopamine Addict looked at him with sheer confusion and asked, game system. Corner Room Husband went on to explain his idea. Yeah, exactly, things like quests, the shop, and the skill tree. Like how a screen pops up to let you add stat points when you level up, stuff like that. Then he started shouting eagerly, status window inventory. But much to his surprise, absolutely nothing happened. Corner Room Husband refused to give up and kept yelling. Quests, information panel, items, character missions, library, monster, dictionary. Come on, please just give me anything, open up system. But no matter how hard he tried, the only response he got was absolute silence. Corner Room Husband completely gave up and slumped down. I guess they do not have any of that stuff here. Ah, damn it. They drag us into this world against our will, and cannot even bother giving us a single special perk. Are we seriously supposed to clear this game empty-handed? And on top of that, we are stuck in the bodies of children. How does that make any sense at all? How could they throw someone who was living a perfectly good life like me into a place like this? Dopamine addict felt like something was not quite adding up when he heard that. A perfectly good life. Corner room husband just kept whining. Dang it, if I had known this would happen, I would have sworn a lot less. He sat back against the wall and let out a heavy sigh. Then he looked up and asked T-Buster, what are you planning to do now? Have you played the Cola region yet? How far did you get in the game? The sudden question caught Dopamine addict a bit off guard. My game progressed well, honestly I actually cleared it all the way up to the Jiao region. But right now, Dopamine Addict was the only person who had ever cleared that hidden area, so he had to downplay it to match T-Buster's progress level. After thinking for a second, he gave his answer, just up to the Unicorn region. Even so, Corner Room Husband was completely shocked. What did you just say? Quit messing with me. Even among Dopamine Addict and his loyal followers, there are only a handful of people who have made it to the Unicorn region. If you really cleared the game up to that point, come to think of it, that jerk was the very first person to post the address of that convenience store, so does not that mean he must have gotten sucked in here too? Where was his main base anyway? Was it the Unicorn region? Hearing all this, Dopamine Addict quietly analyzed the situation. This is so strange for someone who supposedly hates me. He sure knows way too much about my gameplay. I need to stay calm. Now that I think about it, when I posted my final strategy guide, he was the very next person to comment right after Home Protector did. Wait a second, could this guy actually be? Then he just smiled and made up an excuse. Well, I am actually a follower of Dopamine Addict. I just never post anything on the forum, but I know every single one of his strategy guides. Hearing this, Corner Room Husband was absolutely stunned. You really know all of them? Dopamine Addict asked him with a confused look. Wait, do not. You read his guides too. I feel like I see you in the comments every single time. This time, Corner Room Husband suddenly got really quiet and mumbled, yeah. A strange look crossed his face. He forced a bitter smile and said, yeah, I read the guides. All of his pent-up frustration suddenly exploded. But in the end, that jerk just blocked me, damn it. I am a follower of Dopamine Addict. I just never post anything on the forum, but I know every single one of his strategy guides. Wait, you really know all of them? Hearing this, Dopamine Addict just chuckled to himself. So that is how it is, he does not actually hate me. He just formed some weird one-sided attachment to me and threw a massive fit when he got blocked. And he even said he always hit the like button on my guides too. Corner Room Husband was still venting his frustrations. Dang it, out of all the people in the world, why did I have to get sucked into this game with a crazy Dopamine Addict fanboy? Dopamine Addict finally came to a conclusion. I guess he is not such a bad guy after all. His internal rating of Corner Room Husband went up just a little bit. He is an upstanding citizen, always making sure to like my strategy guides. Anyway, you just asked what we are going to do now, right? Dopamine Addict broke into a smile and muttered, starting right now, I am going to become an illegitimate child. The illegitimate child strategy. That was one of the strategies I had posted on the forum. The Kola region is located in a snow-covered area right on the edge of the continent, and it is completely ruled and protected by a warlord faction. The absolute ruler and top commander of that warlord faction is Hayden Goodman. The illegitimate child strategy means becoming his hidden bastard and eventual heir. Hearing this, Corner Husband could not hide his panic. Are you insane? You are actually going with the illegitimate child strategy. Do not do it. Reality is way different from the game. Dopamine Addict, however, had no intention of dragging things out. If you are scared, go find your own path. His bluntness sent the other guy into a panic. Hey, Corner Husband quickly chased after Dopamine Addict and kept talking. Who is scared? I am just asking if pulling that off is even possible. To use that strategy, you have to fool the commander. If he catches you lying, you could actually get your head chopped off. Dopamine Addict just shut him down with one sentence. So you are scared. Corner Husband jumped and quickly denied it. No, I am not. I am just genuinely worried about you. Dopamine Addict watched him and thought to himself, I really do not blame Corner Husband for feeling that way. After all, we literally got dragged into a game world overnight. And it is a post-apocalyptic world where you could drop dead at any moment. Plus, we are trapped in the bodies of 10-year-old kids, so being terrified is totally normal. Placing a hand over his own chest, he took a moment to feel his heartbeat. But strangely enough, I do not feel scared at all. Honestly, ever since I got trapped in this game, I have been feeling this bizarre sense of excitement. I seriously thought I had squeezed every last drop of dopamine out of this game a long time ago. Besides, I am the one who has to go trick that commander, and I really do not care if I die trying. His crazy logic made Corner Husband freeze and ask, What did you just say? Dopamine Addict kept going. Plus, who knows? If I actually die here, maybe I will just wake up back in the real world. But the other guy was genuinely stressing out for him. Die? What if you just die for real? Dopamine Addict explained it simply. Whether I die from getting a game over or getting executed for lying, the end result is exactly the same. Those words were purely the madness of a dopamine rush talking. Corner Husband cursed in absolute frustration. You absolute lunatic. In the end, he could only stand there in helpless silence. After struggling internally for a while, Corner Husband spoke up again. Then what am I supposed to do? You do not even need my help for that bastard child strategy anyway. That made Dopamine Addict raise an eyebrow in surprise. Oh, is that what you were worried about? Since I can handle this strategy entirely on my own, I actually know the perfect place for you to go. By the way, have you done your mandatory military service yet? Corner husband was completely caught off guard. What? No, I literally just turned 20. Dopamine Addict paused and thought. 20? Right, no wonder you have been acting like such a baby this whole time. He spoke up with a calculating look. Since you have not enlisted yet, this is just too perfect. A wicked smirk crept onto Dopamine Addict's face. Somewhere else, a few armed men were standing guard. In another spot, small groups of people were moving together. Dopamine Addict dropped a total bombshell. You are joining the army. All the color drained from Corner Husband's face as he choked out a response. The military, why the hell is that so sudden? Dopamine Addict explained it like it was the most obvious thing in the world. You already know this, but we are orphans now. The whole reason this world is split into 9 safe zones is to protect humanity from alien creatures. The first apocalyptic disaster, the Ice Age, all started when a massive meteorite crashed down from the sky. And then those bizarre alien monsters poured out of it. That is the basic history of this world. That is exactly why the unicorn sector took to the skies, and why the beer sector sank deep underwater. Aside from those 2 specific sectors, everywhere else has to constantly fight off and exterminate the aliens. He was already running the numbers in his head. If we enlist right now, we will absolutely get drafted into an extermination campaign. A system prompt will pop up saying that the extermination war event has been triggered. Your character is only 10 years old, but you will be forced to fight anyway. Dopamine Addict kept laying out the facts. But look, we are just orphans. We have 0 guardians and no home to go back to. We have to join the military just to survive. They cover food and shelter, plus we can actually learn how to handle firearms. His rock-solid logic finally won Corner Husband over. Alright, fine, survival comes first. I get it. But I do not even speak a word of English. How the hell am I supposed to survive in the army? He pointed out the most obvious flaw in the plan. Oh right, this game never got a Korean localization. I totally forgot about that since I am the massive nerd who literally taught myself English just to write game guides. A thick blanket of pure white snow covered the rooftops of the nearby houses. A written document was held out between them. Dopamine Addict casually broke the news. I already submitted your enlistment application. They told us to wait. Corner Husband stared at him in absolute shock. Are you serious? He added that since the Kola region accepts 10-year-olds as soldiers, it would probably get approved. Right then, Corner Husband started complaining again. He whined that even the enlistment application was in English. He was annoyed that they were pulled into a game without a Korean translation patch. His attitude was nothing new to Dopamine Addict. He thought to himself that the guy was doing it again, even though he had already filled out everything for him, from his name to his reason for enlisting. He kindly guided him and told him not to worry too much. He said that from now on, all he needed to say was, "Yes, sir." He demanded a practice response, "Yes, sir." Corner Husband completely froze up. Dopamine Addict looked around and assessed the situation. He wondered if this was actually real. It seemed like they were the only ones speaking Korean, but nobody else seemed to care. He wondered if it was because of the game settings. After the first apocalypse, people of various nationalities had all lived together. His gaze became much sharper. In that case, he told his friend to make sure to write down all important information in Korean so the NPCs here would not be able to read it. Corner Husband smiled back and said that would be easy. Dopamine Addict did not forget to add one more thing. He mentioned that once the guy enlisted, they would not be able to travel together for a while. He said he would call him once. Commander Hayden acknowledged him as his successor. This time, Corner Husband looked clearly panicked. He asked what he meant and if they were really going their separate ways until then. Dopamine Addict teased that since he asked if he was discharged, he must have already served in the military himself. He jokingly ordered him to salute. Corner Husband bluntly invited him to just enlist one more time together, saying he looked like he would do a good job at it. Dopamine Addict observed the other man and silently judged him. He could not believe this jerk dared to say such terrifying things with that innocent face. He mentally cursed him for being selfish and reminded him about the illegitimate child strategy. Corner Husband stubbornly insisted that if they went together, they might clear the game even faster. Those 2 words felt a bit strange to Dopamine Addict. Together. Come to think of it, if other players also transmigrated into this world, he wondered how many more were in this region besides the 2 of them. He figured he should establish a code of conduct for when they run into them. He told his friend to just remember everything he said. He warned him not to act like a useless soldier. Dopamine Addict turned around to leave, and added that they would play solo for the time being. Corner Husband hurriedly called out after him, demanding to know one more thing before he left. He desperately asked what English name he had written down for him. Dopamine Addict calmly replied that he would find out as soon as the officer called his name later. He casually mentioned that he just wrote it that way to make it easy to understand. Meanwhile, an officer was holding his application form and muttering about what a weird name it was. That name was Darling Outsider. Sometime later, Dopamine Addict noted that Corner Husband's enlistment application seemed to have gone through smoothly. He brought his focus back to his own mission. Now it was time to find the grave of Lunamun, the grave of that poor woman who was buried along with the token of the illegitimate child. As a side note, in the game, Commander Hayden originally came from a different region. Before joining the Kola army, he almost lost his life but was miraculously saved by a soldier. That soldier's name was Lunamun. Later on, after joining the Kola army, Hayden became Lunamun's lover, and they even had a child together. They had warmly wondered what they should name their baby. But a cold declaration had been made to him. The former commander had stated that if he married his daughter, he would inherit everything he owned. What happened next was that, contrary to everyone's expectations, Hayden married the predecessor's daughter. Hayden had promised that once he became commander, he would bring Lunamun and their child back. He had begged her to trust him and wait for him. Dopamine Addict quietly went over the details in his head, but the man was never able to keep that promise. The reason for that was simply because Lunamun had suddenly disappeared. Dopamine Addict's eyes widened in surprise. He quickly hid behind a rock the moment someone appeared. He wondered if it was a patrol. Dopamine Addict looked around and carefully calculated his next move. That was way too close. He almost ruined everything. He told himself he needed to be careful because it would be a huge disaster if he got caught red-handed. Even as he was playing through the Kola region, the guards were aggressively ordering each other to search every corner of the place. Commander Hayden was still frantically searching for Lunamun and the child everywhere. Dopamine Addict cautiously peeked out from behind the rock. His eyes grew somber and sad. Right in front of Dopamine Addict was a grave. The commander had absolutely no idea that Lunamun had already passed away. As he stepped closer, he thought to himself that he felt a little guilty disturbing a grave, but he had no other choice. A notification panel popped up. It confirmed that the key item for the illegitimate child strategy was located right inside. Dopamine Addict's hand froze as he felt something off. He picked up a handful of dirt and inspected it. The soil was incredibly loose. He thought to himself in panic, "Please do not tell me." Dopamine Addict was caught off guard. Had another player already made it here? In the past, countless people writhed in agony from the plague. A deadly outbreak had swept right through the slums where Lunamun lived. Anyone healthy enough to walk had already fled. Yet the young woman moved tirelessly to save those left behind. She calmly held their hands to comfort them. As a combat medic, she chose to stay behind all alone to care for the sick. It was not long before she caught the disease herself. The patients who survived her passing built this very grave, weeping bitterly over the fresh dirt. A bitter, freezing wind howled across the mountainside. Dopamine Addict kept digging as he gathered his thoughts. She was actually a really decent person. Out of all the places she could have gone after leaving Hayden, her shelter just had to be hit by a plague. What an absolute tragedy. Once he finished, he used his shovel to pry open the coffin lid. But I guess this actually works out for me. Thanks to the plague, people completely stopped coming here. It is so isolated that even Hayden could never find it. The moment the lid popped off, he froze. Was the coffin already open? Just as I suspected. Inside lay a bare skeleton. The neck was completely empty, and the commander's token was already gone. Dopamine Addict suddenly recalled what Hayden had asked for. The standard strategy for the illegitimate child storyline always started like this. You retrieve Commander Hayden's token from Lunamun's grave, and then you bring it straight to him. You would normally reach out and grab the carefully engraved dog tag. To be officially recognized as the illegitimate child of the commander, you needed the exact item he gave to Lunamun, and that item was his military dog tag. But right now that tag was completely gone. Well, I kind of saw this coming. Somebody else swooped in and swiped it. I really was one step too late. A smirk crept across his face as he thought about it. Well, things are finally starting to get interesting. Dopamine Addict immediately thought of the golden key. But there is absolutely nothing to worry about, because I know exactly where the real token is hidden. He knelt down carefully beside the skeleton. I never actually wrote this in my strategy guide, but the real token Commander Hayden gave her was never the dog tag. Dopamine Addict then reached his hand toward the skull. The true token is right here. A terrifying scream shattered the dead of night. A moment later, he pulled out a ring, the very meteorite that brought total destruction to this world. This ring was forged from a fragment of it, the Moonstone Ring. He held it in his hand, admiring it for a long while. Normally, you could easily clear this storyline with just the dog tag, but since someone else beat me to it, I have no other choice. Dopamine Addict suddenly thought of the poor combat medic. Even with her grave being robbed after her passing, she definitely never wanted this ring to be taken away. Gathering his thoughts, he stood up and spoke softly to the grave. I am truly sorry for disturbing your eternal rest, Lunamun. And I am also sorry that I have to pretend to be your son from now on. Dopamine Addict bowed his head and made a sincere promise. In return, if I actually become the commander's successor, I promise to treat him just like my own real father. The diamond right in the center of the ring flashed brightly. And I will do absolutely everything in my power to survive. The moment he finished speaking, a powerful gust of wind erupted. You have stepped one step closer to the ultimate secrets of the apocalypse. Dopamine Addict gritted his teeth, desperately trying to cover the glowing ring in his hand. Did the apocalypse really always have an event like this? I am definitely going to get caught. A system panel suddenly popped up right in front of him, partially unlocking system functions. System messages are now active. Character profile is available. Inventory is available. Chat function remains locked. A special perk is available for the player who cleared all zones. Would you like to check it now? Confirm. Seeing this left him deep in thought. Wait, there are special perks too. Did I trigger this by meeting some hidden conditions? I really should check if I can connect with any of the other players. The notification hovered stubbornly in front of him. A special perk is available for the player who cleared all zones. Would you like to check it now? Confirm. He leaned in and tapped the screen. The chat function. I really wanted to look around a bit more, but I guess I will open this perk first. Confirm. The system instantly flashed a new message. Welcome to this world player Dopamine Addict. As the sole player to conquer all zones, you have been granted the power of title inheritance. Title effects do not stack. Here is your title list. Friend of Luna Moon, Master of Poisons, Eternal Commander, Enemy of the Goodman Family, Hero of the Conquest War. Dopamine Addict nodded, as it all started to make sense. So inheriting my old titles is the special perk. Man, there are way too many of them. He quickly pieced stock together in his head. Stop to earn a title in a safe zone, you can carry it over into your next playthrough. The effects usually match exactly how you earned it in the first place. For example, if you equip the title Friend of Luna Moon, without the title it is normal, but with the title equipped, you easily boost your favorability with any NPC who liked Luna Moon. Hayden would look at you with full affection and say, just by looking at your smile, I know for a fact that you are my son. Finally, he made up his mind. Since I have to go meet the commander tomorrow, I definitely need to equip the Friend of Luna Moon title. Dopamine Addict stared blankly at the ring once again. But wait. If only the players who cleared every single zone get this perk, does that mean everyone else has to start from absolute zero? Lost in his thoughts, he absent-mindedly slipped the ring onto his finger. Seriously, what the hell was the bastard who dragged us into this game actually thinking? Suddenly, another notification popped up. The effects of the Friend of Luna Moon title are currently being applied to the target. Dopamine Addict stared down at his hand in total confusion. The title effects are being applied right now. Realizing something, he quickly snapped his head toward the grave. This notification is only supposed to show up when an affected NPC is nearby. But I am the only one out here. Dopamine Addict stood in absolute silence, slowly picking his shovel up off the ground. He quickly went back to work furiously, shoveling snow over the coffin. I have no idea what just happened, but since nothing jumped out at me, it is probably fine. I am just going to pretend I saw nothing and close this coffin back up. Staring at the freshly turned snow, Dopamine Addict started wondering. Now that I think about it, did the guy who stole the dog tag already head over to the commander's mansion? Soon after, he made his way back to Hayden's mansion, surrounded by the whispers of the guards. It really is a damn shame. He was just trying to follow a flawless strategy guide. Such a sharp and hard-working player. The moment the guards spotted him, they blocked his path. Hey kid, what business do you have creeping around the commander's mansion? The guards actually felt a bit bad for him, but they still had to chase him away. That was when Dopamine Addict looked them in the eye and spoke clearly. I have information about the people Commander Hayden is looking for. The guard was stunned to hear that. What the young master said was completely true, he really did show up. A hint of doubt crossed his mind, young master. The guard then led him inside. Follow me, the young master is waiting for you. Dopamine Addict silently followed behind him. This was completely out of his expectations. The door opened and he walked in with a few questions in mind. Whoever this person was, were they waiting for other players? A pleasant male voice echoed in the room, welcome. He smiled and walked over to introduce himself. You are a player, right? The system information panel appeared. Name Taejong Tae's Beyonce, title non-affiliated region, Kola region. This player has not unlocked the system, so you cannot send a friend request. Seeing no response, the guy walked over. You do not need to be so on guard. I am not sure if you noticed. He smiled and explained, since there is no Korean language patch here, the locals will not understand a word we say if we speak in Korean. At the same time, another information panel popped up. Name Safe Zone, title non-affiliated region, Kola region. This player has not unlocked the system, so you cannot send a friend request. Dopamine Addict glanced at it and replied coldly, I already know that. He gradually lowered his guard. Since the guy freely shared information, he did not seem to have any bad intentions. He asked directly, but why are you waiting for other players? Safe Zone let out a tired sigh. You are pretty impatient. It is not too late to ask that after exchanging names. Dopamine Addict was completely taken aback. Wait, exchange names. Safe Zone stared intently at him. Since their systems were not unlocked yet, they could not see his information. He recalled his previous introduction, I am T. Balram. Back then, Dopamine Addict had secretly thought I am going to borrow your name. He figured he would just trick them and smooth things over like last time. The guy suddenly stepped closer. I think I should introduce myself first. The necklace around his neck flashed. Safe Zone patted his chest proudly. I am Dopamine Addict. Dopamine Addict thought he had misheard him at first. What? Who did you just say you were? The guy let out a soft chuckle. It seems like you already know who I am. Safe Zone boasted right to his face. Well, I am actually pretty famous on the community forums. He thought back to those articles with the headlines, the top 5 hardest strategies of Dopamine Addict for humans to conquer. He looked incredibly proud of himself. They call me the first person to clear all the safe zones or something like that. Dopamine Addict turned pale as he suddenly realized, wait, is this guy trying to impersonate me? Was I really that annoying? After showing off, Safe Zone switched to a serious tone. It seems like you just rushed in here without a plan, so would you mind leaving right now? He smirked and held up the pendant around his neck. You know you cannot even start this strategy without this thing. Before he could say a word, the guy cut him off. But that reckless confidence of yours shows me you might actually be useful. Safe Zone stepped closer and loudly offered, what do you say, how about you work for me? Just like this kid over here. He gestured toward the person standing next to him. Dopamine Addict widened his eyes. Ah, I get it now. He thought back to when he collapsed in the freezing snow. Players who could not adapt to this world would be eliminated before they even had a chance to try any strategy. Safe Zone was just using them like pawns on a chessboard, but the survivors who managed to adapt would eventually gather here for that exact strategy. Safe Zone 8 was looking for useful pawns. The commander was pulling the strings behind the scenes. In order to become Commander Hayden's successor later on, he would need strong and capable assistants by his side. The guy put on a sincere look and said, I will prove to him that you are his son. Dopamine Addict coldly cut him off. I am going to show this guy what a real strategy looks like. He already had his own plans in mind, but I have no intention of teaming up with him. Right after that, Dopamine Addict demanded in a low voice, go get the commander. He was feeling incredibly annoyed. How dare this guy steal my strategy like that? A firm voice echoed through the room. I will prove to him that you are his son, accompanied by a sharp thought. I am going to show this guy what a real strategy looks like. Hearing that, Safe Zone immediately fell silent and left the room. He then slowly turned around. Alright, now that the imposter went to get the commander. The guy looked up when he was called out to, hey, you there. Dopamine Addict thought to himself, I need to figure out why Safe Zone 8 kept this guy around. He then walked over and struck up a conversation. Did you also come here for the illegitimate child strategy and just end up teaming up with him? The guy bowed his head and replied carefully, oh no, it is not like that. I actually woke up in the exact same place as Dopamine right from the start. Dopamine Addict looked highly suspicious. You woke up in the exact same place. Taejongtae immediately nodded. Yes, I did. He could not help but be impressed. This guy is surprisingly cooperative. He quickly figured out Safe Zone's trick. So that Safe Zone guy started impersonating me the moment he crossed over. He then continued probing. Why did you follow him though you could have just enlisted in the military, right? Hearing that the guy's face instantly turned pale, I absolutely do not want to go back to the military. Dopamine Addict nodded in understanding. Ah, so you are an ex-soldier. He thought about the guy's massive build when he was standing next to Safe Zone. He might look gentle, but he is built like a tank. Now I understand why Safe Zone kept him around. After a long silence, he suddenly asked in a low voice, do you not hate Dopamine Addict at all? You are stuck suffering like this because he leaked that address. Taejongtae casually replied, oh, that I know about it. He then continued speaking, but honestly, I am actually pretty glad. Dopamine Addict looked completely bewildered. Excuse me. The guy clenched his fists with a look of pure determination. Getting to play a game with Dopamine makes my heart race like crazy. Taejongtae took a deep breath and admitted, I am a massive fan of Dopamine. He is my absolute idol. Dopamine Addict sighed to himself. This guy is definitely not normal. He took a step back as the kid kept gushing, plus he is the one who cleared every single zone. Now that we are stuck in this world, there is absolutely no reason not to follow his lead. Finishing his rant, Taejongtae turned and gave a deadpan warning, so if you want to survive this apocalypse, you had better do exactly what he says. Dopamine Addict was honestly speechless. This kid had a truly bizarre personality. Alright then. He followed up, let me ask you one more thing. Standing right in front of Taejongtae, he asked bluntly, so you are a die-hard fan of Dopamine Addict? The kid looked a bit confused, but nodded eagerly. Yes, of course I am. Hearing that, he let out a sigh of relief. Good, you passed the test. Before Taejongtae could even finish his sentence, the door suddenly swung open. Huh, what do you mean by that? Commander Hayden Goodman stepped in from the outside. Is a friend of yours here, my boy? The system interface popped up with a ping. The title effect Friend of Luna Moon has been applied to the target. He jumped and turned toward the commander. Then it explained further, since you possess the ring of Luna Moon, the effect is doubled. Dopamine Addict looked on in a daze as the figure walked past him. Wait, the effect is doubled. Hayden suddenly leaned down right in front of his face. You look exactly like her. Staring into the old man's face, he thought to himself, does this just boost affection points? Does it actually make me look like Luna Moon to him? Boss John walked over from a distance looking completely baffled. What is up with this weird mood? Then he raised his voice. Hey, did you not say you had proof for my father? Dopamine Addict found him incredibly annoying. He really never shut up. Then he slowly pulled something out. Commander, please take a look at this. Resting in his bruised palm was a small ring. This is a keepsake from my mother. Hayden froze his face, going completely blank for a moment. Boss John gritted his teeth in a panic. What is the deal with that worn-out ring? The commander finally broke the silence. What is the meaning of this? A sudden chill ran down Dopamine Addict's spine. Wait, what? Hayden shot up from his seat. Are you claiming to be my son? The commander glared furiously at Boss John. Yet the ring belonging to the woman I loved most is sitting right there in someone else's hands. Boss John turned deadly pale. Where the hell did a ring come from? Was the proof not supposed to be a military dog tag? He stammered as he desperately shifted the blame. No, that ring is mine. That guy stole it from me. The commander's next words terrified Boss John into silence. I highly suggest you shut your mouth. Hayden turned his back coldly. If you dare lie to me one more time, I will not show you any mercy, even if you are just a child. Do I make myself clear? The fake son's voice trembled uncontrollably. This is impossible. The strategy guide specifically said it was a military dog tag. Taejongtaes called out in a choked voice. Bro. At that moment, Boss John looked like he had been struck by lightning. He stared at him and stammered. Wait a minute, who exactly are you? When he got no answer, he yelled at the top of his lungs. Who the hell are you? The real Dopamine Addict cut him off with a freezing tone. Who do you think I am? Right then, a system alert rang out. Player Boss John has failed the scenario. His face lost all color. You do not tell me. Following the system chime, he collapsed to the ground in utter shock. Eliminating failed player. A flurry of new alerts immediately popped up. Ownership of items is being transferred to Dopamine Addict. The inventory bag of Luna Moon, the military dog tag of Luna Moon. He snapped his head back in shock. Weight transferred. At that same moment, Hayden scooped up the unconscious Boss John and rushed off. Get him to the medical bay, hurry. Dopamine Addict felt his stomach drop. There was only one scenario where a player's items were transferred inside a safe zone, and that was after a successful player kill. He lowered his head and let out a heavy sigh. So failing a scenario actually means death. Dopamine Addict was lost in his own thoughts. He could not be completely sure, but dying here might just send them back to reality. Suddenly, a voice called out from behind him. Big bro. Taejongtaes was huddled against the wall, bawling his eyes out. What just happened to him? Dopamine Addict stepped up and cut him off. Pull yourself together. He paused for a second before dropping the truth. Because that guy was never your brother to begin with. Taejongtaes spun around, his face completely pale. What did you just say? He remembered a comment from the past flashing through his mind. Taejongtaes' Beyonce wrote, thanks for always dropping these awesome strategy guides, big bro. Dopamine Addict turned away with an exhausted sigh. And you call yourself my biggest fan. He smiled wryly and looked back at him. Yet you could not even recognize me. I am the real Dopamine Addict. Taejongtaes jumped nearly out of his skin. Are you seriously the boss? He nodded slowly. You have not unlocked your system interface yet, so you had no way of knowing. He thought back to the stats he had seen hovering over the guy earlier. Name Boss John. Title none. Zone Cola. This player has not unlocked the system friend request unavailable. He went on to explain. But my system is active so I can see other players' information. To prove his point, Dopamine Addict casually read out his full handle. Taejongtaes Beyonce. He looked the kid in the eye and said softly. There is absolutely no way I would fail a scenario this early in the game. It took a moment for the shock to wear off, but when it did, Taejongtaes exploded with excitement. I am so incredibly sorry, boss. I knew something felt off. There was no way Boss Dopamine would mess up his own strategy like that. I almost got completely played by that guy's confident act. The kid frantically tried to justify himself. I swear I knew deep down that you were the real deal. Dopamine Addict scowled in pure annoyance. You totally fell for it, did you not? Keep your voice down. I have no intention of blowing my cover just yet. Then he let out a heavy sigh and warned him. You need to remember that not every player in here is going to be friendly toward me. Pausing for a moment, he emphasized, so from now on, just call me Hayden Goodman. Taejongtaes looked a bit dazed but quickly replied, the commander's son. Yes, boss, I got it. Dopamine Addict looked quite pleased and praised him. Good, if you cooperate, I will help you survive in this area. He immediately nodded repeatedly. I will do my absolute best. Then he coldly turned away. And of course you will not be drafted into the army. He left Taejongtaes behind crying out miserably, boss. In his mind, he quietly thought this guy is really easy to deal with. At this moment, Dopamine Addict searched through his memory. The difficulty of this area is still relatively low. But inside the body of a 10-year-old child, what I can do is also strictly limited. And considering the players in other areas, it is best to make as many allies as possible. Thinking about this, he suddenly touched something in his pants pocket. And now his hand gently rubbed the ring. There is a new quest, the secret of the apocalypse. These objects are hidden behind familiar everyday items. Each area has a meteorite item, and I have known this since I played the game. But at that time, the system announced you have taken one step closer to the secret of the apocalypse. Thinking back made him incredibly curious. After obtaining the meteorite item, this was the very first time a notification about the apocalypse appeared. Another notification popped up, unlocking a part of the system. He remembered it again, and right after that, the system was unlocked. The items will gradually increase. That means the more meteorite items I collect from other areas, the closer I will get to the secret of the apocalypse. Finishing his deduction made Dopamine Addict look miserable. I thought I just needed to stop the apocalypse, but now I even have to uncover its secrets too. Then the corners of his mouth suddenly curled up. It seems reality is indeed far different from the game. Taejongtae nodded in confirmation when he heard him ask. When the commander returns, tell him that Boss Jones tricked you. Seeing that he quickly summarized the situation. Since you tagged along with the fake son, he will definitely suspect you. Once we get out of here safely, I will introduce you to another player. He then continued, his name is Corner Room Husband, he has always been helping me. Recalling a comment, he once read a comment in the order it was posted. Corner Room Husband, is this a guide to clear the stage? Is your hobby torturing others? Taejongtae immediately recognized it. Ah, that guy who always trash talks right. Dopamine Addict replied, yeah. After that he instructed, so when you meet him later just play along. Okay, I got it. Taejongtae had no objections and agreed, boss, yes, I understand. The other guy suddenly became hesitant. Oh, by the way. He suddenly leaned in close and whispered, that guy T-bastard, I think he got possessed too. Dopamine Addict's eyes widened in horror. What? How do you know that Taejongtae lowered his voice and recounted? After you posted the location of the convenience store, the veteran gamers started disappearing. Remembering the silhouette of someone walking out the door, he continued, by the way, that guy T-bastard, I think he got possessed too. Thinking of the scene in the supermarket back then, Dopamine Addict was startled. What? How do you know that? Taejongtae honestly replied. After you posted the location of the convenience store, the veteran gamers started disappearing. A question echoed in his ears, buying a knife. His hands holding the item paused slightly. Since the guide for the knife area was posted, I figured I would give it a try. Pausing for a moment, the other person continued, it is a hidden area after all. At this point, Taejongtae recounted, after that he bought a knife and paid for it. Thinking of an area symbol, he speculated, then that means his starting point is the knife area. Dopamine Addict suddenly had a premonition in his heart. He had fallen into the absolute worst place possible. Do not blame me, I only gave the convenience store location to Home Protector. Now he suddenly remembered. But wait, you saw T-bastard get hit on the head and still get possessed. He looked completely clueless. What hit on the head? Staying silent for a bit, he finally recounted. The cashier smashed me on the head with a barcode scanner. I got possessed on my way out of the convenience store. Saying that Dopamine Addict could not help but ask, you did not get hit, he casually replied, nope. Recalling the situation back then made him groan in frustration. Then why the hell did that bastard hit me on the head? Then Dopamine Addict calmed himself down. Whatever, that does not matter right now, let it go. He took a deep breath and instructed, anyway, remember carefully what I said. If my father asks, you must say that you were tricked. Taejongtae obediently listened. I got it. The door behind him suddenly opened. Right now the most important thing is... A young man walked in and said, black hair, the commander is calling for you. Dopamine Addict immediately came up with an idea. The plan is right in front of me now. Then he softly replied, yes, I am coming right now. At this time Hayden was sitting and waiting in the dining room. Dopamine Addict walked over and could not help but marvel. The title effect must be absolutely incredible. Seeing him, the man took the initiative to speak. You really kept me waiting. Finishing his words, Hayden even added, I already sent your friend back to his room because he was not feeling well. He was a bit surprised and thought I did not expect him to invite me to a meal right away like this. Thinking of all the effort spent searching for so long, he asked in a low voice, Hayden, I spent years looking for you and Luna Moon, but I could never find the two of you. Where on earth have you been all this time? Dopamine Addict sat at the table and honestly replied, in the back of the slums, my mother is there. He looked in disbelief. Luna Moon is in the slums. He immediately confirmed, yes, to be more precise. His next words left Hayden completely stunned. That is where my mother's grave is located. His hand on the dining table clenched tightly, so she has already passed away. Very quickly he managed to adjust his emotions. Since I failed to keep my promise and made you lose your mother, I want to make it up to you for all these past years. Dopamine Addict quickly realized, this dialogue. As expected, the man immediately declared, I will choose you as my successor and leave everything to you. His entire body froze. The dialogue that appears when you succeed in the illegitimate child plan, the system panel instantly popped up a notification of the successful plan. Thanks to the excellent completion of the plan, 3 rewards are now ready. Please choose your reward carefully. 3 rewards, no more than 3. Dopamine Addict started calculating. But the illegitimate child plan is just the starting point. Sweet, it popped up. Thinking about Hayden's stern face, he told himself that to climb to the rank of commander in the Kola region, he had to succeed in this 3 reward plan no matter what. Depending on what he asked for, the commander would decide if he was worthy to be his successor. Seeing his silence, Hayden softened his voice. So tell me what you want, son. Dopamine Addict already knew his answer. He had decided on the first reward a long time ago. Outwardly, he pretended to hesitate. All I want is for you to visit my mother's grave more often. He was already picturing the future. The more the commander visited Lunamoon's grave, the more everyone would realize how much he cared about him, and if that brought his attention to the slums, his succession points would shoot up as well. Hayden nodded immediately. Now that I know where she rests, I will absolutely go. The moment he said that, the system sent a notification. 3 rewards, 1 out of 3 completed. Dopamine Addict put on a sad face. Now there are only 2 rewards left. Hayden suddenly noticed the scratches on his hands. He could not bear to look and turned away. The delicious food is already served, we should eat first. Dopamine Addict froze in surprise. Potatoes, cornbread, salad, and even real meat instead of monster scraps. Looking closely, these were incredibly rare items to find. Hayden looked a bit guilty. I prepared this in a hurry, so there is not much, but please eat as much as you like. He quickly shook his head. No, this is more than enough. Dopamine Addict felt really confident, thinking the situation with TTC was going smoothly. Meanwhile, on the other side, a young man looked completely annoyed. I have no idea what you are talking about, so just shut up. TTC kept bowing on his knees. I am so sorry. With that thought, he opened his mouth, ready to take a bite. Just relax and eat. But Dopamine Addict ended up biting into thin air. Startled, he looked around. The food just vanished. I did not even get to take a bite. How did that happen? A large hand slammed hard onto the table. Hayden stared at him with wide eyes. Just now in your hand. Dopamine Addict started to panic. Did I get caught? Hayden stepped forward and grabbed his wrist. I knew it, my eyes were not playing tricks on me. He stared intently at his palm. My wounds are completely gone. Even Dopamine Addict was shocked. The wounds are gone. Thinking about this, his eyes darkened in realization. He recalled the state of his body from before and compared it to now. Wait a minute, they really are gone. Dopamine Addict finally pieced things together. Now that he thought about it, the food disappeared earlier, just like when you consume an item in a game and it instantly absorbs into your body. That means his injuries healed the exact same way. He thought back to his time in the district, realizing that things had been strange from the very beginning. When he was walking with that guy, and even when he saw the beggar. Ever since I took over this body, I have not felt hungry even once. The image of bread and its stats loaded into a body incapable of hunger. Freshly baked cornbread smelling deliciously of sweet corn, it was a system where consuming food restored your health points. It felt like he was standing right inside the system space. The game mechanics were being applied directly to reality. The injuries on my legs will disappear quickly too. This means I never have to worry about my daily meals again, and even if I get hurt, I can instantly heal my wounds. Thinking of this, a small smile crept onto his face. Since this was not mentioned in the All-Region Conqueror privilege description, it had to be a universal perk for all possessed players. Dopamine Addict told himself that he would have to test the limits of this healing ability later. He gently held out a fork. Come here, TTC. He turned around in confusion. Huh. Then he looked back at Hayden standing in front of him. Anyway, how am I supposed to explain this to the commander? He hesitated and started to speak. Commander, actually but Hayden immediately cut him off. You do not need to say anything. After a long moment of silence, Hayden finally spoke. She used to have healing abilities too. His next words left him completely stunned. Over the years, countless people have come to me claiming to be my biological child. He clenched his hands tightly, and of course every single one of them was lying. The reflection of the female medic seemed to appear in his teacup. Thank you so much for coming to find me, son. The two of them sat there in silence for a long time. Dopamine Addict lowered his head and muttered softly, this is so strange. He fell into deep thought. As far as I know, there are absolutely no NPCs with healing abilities. Besides, Lunamoon is just a game character. Thinking about her, he started to wonder, could she have been a player too? Dopamine Addict let out a quiet sigh. Well, at least my cover is not blown, but now I have even more things to investigate. He remembered the ring he was holding on to. Why did the Moonstone ring, the token of their love, appear here, and why does it hold the secret to the apocalypse? Then there was the mystery of the female medic, and the question of whether Lunamoon actually possessed healing abilities at all. Dopamine Addict looked at him cautiously for a long time. I really wanted to ask the commander directly how my mother used her powers. Right after that, he imagined the faces of the others, but doing so might cause suspicion. First, I need to solidify my position. After a long silence, Dopamine Addict finally spoke up. Commander. He finally said in a low voice, I have a favor to ask. Hayden nodded in agreement. Go ahead. Then he boldly suggested I want to have a meal with kids my age every month. A notification immediately appeared, reward 2 out of 3. Hayden thought for a long time but still could not figure it out. Have a meal with other kids, why would you want that? Dopamine Addict remembered the poor kids by the cliff outside. There are so many children suffering from hunger and the freezing cold. Saying this, he looked straight into his eyes. I was lucky enough to have a meal like this, so I want to help them in any way I can. He actually had another calculation in mind. Of course, that is just a cover-up. In this world, only players can absorb food, meaning with just a single meal, I can easily tell who is a player and who is an NPC. Dopamine Addict came up with a theory. If I meet Tjongtek or the corner uncle at the dining table, Tjongtek would happily say, I knew I could trust you, brother. The uncle would grumpily say, what took you so long to find me, you bastard? He concluded that managing them would be much easier this way. Then he silently looked towards him. Furthermore, I can also gain the trust of kids my age, the ones I will be working with in the future. Talk about killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Of course, Hayden was raising an eyebrow and thought that is only if he actually accepts my request. He himself understood their current financial and material situation. I understand the commander's hesitation. From his perspective, my request could be politically interpreted as a form of welfare. Dopamine addict calmly kept drinking his tea, but this request is not completely impossible. He already had a backup plan for moments like this, and right after that he continued. Dopamine addict was very confident in this plan. Making him feel guilty is the best strategy. His face suddenly looked so sad. If it costs too much money, I can just drink water instead. Then he picked up the teacup and blew on it. There was nothing to eat out there. I only survived by eating snow anyway, so I really will not cost you anything. These words really made Hayden feel so guilty, so could you just think about it one time, please? Saying this, Dopamine addict turned to him and softly called out, "Father." Hayden's face instantly froze, and right after that he made his decision. I will arrange a gathering at the beginning of next month. The system immediately popped up a notification reward 2 out of 3. When night fell, the hallway was lit up with candlelight. Hayden stood by the bed and softly said, "Have a good night." Dopamine addict sleepily replied to him, "Good night, Commander." Hearing that, his face completely froze for a second. Under the night moonlight, Hayden admitted, "I am sure you have so many questions right now. Why did I marry another woman when I loved your mother? Why, as the commander was, I completely unable to protect her?" Then he reached out and gently patted his head. "I really want to tell you everything, but at your age it might be too difficult to understand." His eyes were filled with so much tenderness. "So when the right time comes, I will tell you everything I know. And when that time comes, you should also tell me everything that you know." Dopamine addict still kept his distant attitude. "Yes, sir." Hayden nodded, looking satisfied. "Good, that is enough for now." Then he slowly turned around and walked away. Oh, and Hayden's back clearly showed his sadness. "I already told you, you can just call me father." Dopamine addict did not say anything and just silently thought to himself, calling him father really is effective. He tiredly ruffled his hair. It will take a while before I can truly see him as a father, but I should definitely take advantage of it whenever I can. Because later on I will need him to manage the shelter for me. Suddenly the system popped up. With 2 or more players unlocking the system, the chat channel is now activated. He sat up in complete shock. The chat channel is activated. Another player just unlocked the system. A prompt appeared on the screen. "Do you want to enter the public chat room? One-on-one private chats are only available between mutual friends. Enter." He told himself in his mind, "Let us see if the meteorite items are actually the requirement to unlock the system or not." Thinking of this, Dopamine addict immediately clicked accept. 2 notifications rang out, one after another. Dopamine addict has entered the chat room. The second player to unlock the system is T-Buster. His face immediately turned pale. The scenes from back then flashed through his memory. If T-Jong Tech was right, then T-Buster is currently in this area, and the meteorite items in that area are definitely the key element for the massacre strategy against the local residents' right. A group of people in black gathered in one place. The knife sector, a total lair for crazy psychopaths where brutal murderers just roam the streets. A sharp knife stabbed straight into the glass, and the weak were helplessly hunted down. The surroundings became completely dark. Because of that, the strategy to beat this area was just as brutal. It was to wipe out every single resident there, a complete massacre of the locals. Quest progress 0 out of 1000, an absolute bloodbath. Dopamine addict thoughtfully looked at the system screen. It sounds like an impossible mission, but there is actually a way. The knife shattered the iron chains. You just need to use the meteorite item from the knife sector, the dagger. With that dagger, even a kid could take someone down with a single strike. He remembered how much he struggled back then. Of course, that does not mean clearing the stage is going to be easy. I only barely made it after being killed countless times. A huge question popped into Dopamine addict's mind. But that guy T-Buster did not just survive that place, he even managed to unlock the system. Looking at the prompt entering the public chat room, a smirk appeared on his face. T-Buster Dopamine addict. This guy is definitely not some ordinary player. Dopamine addict imagined a mystery box. So what should I ask him first? Did he unlock the system by finding a meteorite item just like me? Or should I ask him about his current progress? After a long silence, a system notification popped up. T-Buster, are you the dopamine addict I know? Dopamine addict, yeah, that is me. He immediately focused and waited, needing to calm down first. A message arrived, leaving Dopamine addict completely stunned. T-Buster, Dopamine addict, I will find you and kill you. The next morning was absolutely beautiful. The brown-haired young man opened the door and walked in. Young Master Hayden, please wake up, the director is looking for you. At this moment, Dopamine addict was standing by the window getting ready. Then he turned around coldly, where should I go? When he received the message, he hurriedly replied, Dopamine addict, hey, I am not the one who brought you here. We are in the same boat and I want to help you. He then recalled, last night I tried my best to calm T-Buster down. Anyway, there is no denying that T-Buster is highly capable. I need him to get the meteorite item from the Jiao region. Then he continued texting. Dopamine addict, I will give you some useful information. Dopamine addict players actually do not need to eat or drink. Dopamine addict, you can heal your own wounds. The other party finally replied. T-Buster, that is indeed useful information. Dopamine addict gritted his teeth as T-Buster added, but still, if I make it out alive, I will hunt you down and kill you. I already told you I am not the one who threw you into that area. His hatred is much deeper than I thought. Then he quickly reconsidered. Oh well, he is probably going through absolute hell right now. If he did not have the goal of killing me, he might not even survive. Finally, Dopamine addict sent a challenge. Dopamine addict, I am currently in the Kolar region, make sure you survive and come here to kill me. He casually recalled, so I even encouraged him so he would not die. Sunlight poured down on the massive estate. Dopamine addict walked slowly down the path, but there had been no response since then. Oh well, he is probably busy fighting for his life. A voice rang out from ahead, welcome. He stopped in front of a figure. A notification appeared, Pendleton. At the same time, the person turned around. Yesterday, I just met someone claiming to be Hayden, and today I meet another one. Dopamine addict replied flatly, yes, and so what? Deep down, he could not help but feel annoyed. That man was Director Mercer, acting as the commander's adjutant. Just look at that attitude. He is a brilliant strategist, but extremely paranoid, which is why in the game I usually poisoned him to clear the stage more easily. Mercer slowly walked toward him. Even if you are the commander's biological son, you had better show some respect. He leaned in and whispered a warning. The commander's official wife is Lady Daphne, so at the end of the day you are nothing but a bastard. His shadow covered his line of sight. He is exactly like he was in the game, but this time I will not kill him. He thought about the man's past. Mercer was an orphan and a former child soldier. He might be a bit sensitive, but his outstanding abilities earned him recognition. Mercer quietly kept his loneliness to himself. However, he harbored a secret wish, a place where parents love their children, and those children love their own. A warm family filled with love passed down through generations. He wanted to build a family like that. His hand unfortunately started bleeding, and right at that moment a woman appeared in front of him. I am sorry. She brought a gentle light with her. It was Daphne Goodman, the daughter of the former commander. She handed him a handkerchief. Here, use this. Mercer was briefly stunned for a moment. The flag of power flew high in the wind. He once thought the reason his heart fluttered was because of her family background. He only dared to look at Daphne from afar, believing his foolish hope was nothing but a pipe dream. He did not dare admit that he had feelings for the commander's daughter. Stacks of paperwork were processed quickly, so he buried himself in his work. There was always a certain distance between them, to hide his feelings and protect the place where she lived. Hayden stood in front of her. Then one day he suddenly appeared. A noble medal was awarded. A man named Hayden married Daphne and even inherited the position of commander. Mercer always kept an eye on him, but after becoming the commander's adjutant, he learned the truth. Daphne did not look happy at all. It was just a marriage of convenience. At that time his face darkened. Mercer ran frantically toward Hayden. Commander, if Lady Daphne were happy, I would not have interfered, but you do not love her at all, sir. He could not help but question him loudly. I completely understand that you are highly capable, and that is why you hold this position, but I believe you should call off this marriage. Hayden maintained a cold attitude. Thank you for the compliment, but there is something a bit strange. Then he looked at the medal. Are you not also an outstanding talent recognized by the military? Yet instead of aiming for the commander's seat, you are asking me to divorce Daphne first. The following words made Mercer freeze. Listen here, Mercer, just as you said, Daphne and I do not love each other. Saying this, Hayden let out a sigh. I am simply waiting for the day I can reunite with my own family. A dove spread its wings across the sky. Once I find my child and pass down this position, Daphne will also be free. Mercer furrowed his brows and asked, what did you say? Hayden continued, so let me ask you one thing. Right now, he was the one saying those words. You love Daphne Goodman, do you not? This statement perfectly matched his, did it not? The other man finally managed to speak after a long while, sir. Deep down, he realized it was the exact same question. Dopamine addict slowly closed in, forcing Mercer to step back. Just as you said, I may just be a bastard, but because of that, I think I understand what you want better than anyone else. Dopamine addict looked right at him. Because I am just like you, I have spent my whole life craving a real family. Even you have to admit that Meersalt is a total genius, so I think I will try a slightly different strategy this time. Then he lowered his voice. I think I understand how you feel. He made a firm promise to himself, I am going to win Meersalt over to my side. After that, Dopamine addict walked up to the front doors of the mansion. He looked up and wondered, did I overact when I pretended to sympathize with him? By then, Meersalt had already bowed his head to apologize. Please forgive my disrespect. He took a deep breath. But his reaction was not too bad, so I can relax for now. Suddenly, the system panel popped up right in front of him. God has entered the public chat room. Dentist has entered the chat room. Suppossible has entered the public chat room. I don't care it's cardio has entered the chat room. Junkie has entered the chat room. Dopamine addict's eyes went wide with shock. I figured the other players would unlock the system soon, but all at exactly the same time. If so, does that mean that guy is here too? Right after that, a notification popped up. Bug has entered the public chat room. A smirk slowly crept onto Dopamine Addict's face. The mastermind behind this mass possession, Home Protector. A message was sent. Where is this? Where am I? Someone send me a private message. He then replied in the chat. Dopamine Addict sent, the one T-Bull Rom should truly hate welcome, seeing that the other person immediately replied. Home Protector sent, oh Dopamine Addict, you got possessed too. He thought of a single name, Home Protector. As soon as he connected to the system, Home Protector spoke up. Oh Dopamine Addict, you got transported here too. God instantly recognized a familiar face. Dopamine Addict, is that really you? I am a massive fan of yours. He stared blankly at the chat window popping up. What is this, a chat room? I thought I was the only one who got transported into this world. Home Protector quickly pieced everything together. So everyone went to the convenience store after seeing the address I posted. He furrowed his brows and thought, this guy. He smiled and spoke through the system. It is so great to see everyone gathered here. Hayden silently shook his head in total helplessness. He really has his head in the clouds. His eyes slowly grew serious. Once the second apocalypse begins, the low difficulty zones will be incredibly vulnerable to attacks, making it extremely hard to build shelters. Hayden continued analyzing the situation in his head. When that time comes, players absolutely must leave the low difficulty zones. A player looked at the pile of resources in front of him and laughed out loud. This place is a total goldmine, haha. The person standing next to him gave him a weird look. What the hell is this guy doing? Another guy just waved it off casually. Just ignore him, he's going to die anyway. He secretly planned out his next steps to move to the higher level zones. Thinking about the future, Hayden could not help but sigh. But most players only think about surviving the immediate danger and end up barricading themselves in the easy zones, ultimately leading themselves straight to their own doom. After thinking it through, he sent a message into the system. I am currently in the cola zone. Just to get a grasp on the situation, I want to know which zones everyone else is in right now. He was the first to reply. I am in the love zone. Right after that, Suppossible also spoke up. I am in the beer zone. I don't care, its cardio was quick to follow. I am in the chick zone. Junkie hesitated for a moment before answering. I am in the cocaine zone. Reading that answer, God could not hold back a loud laugh. Ha ha ha, do not tell me you bought cocaine at that convenience store, seriously. He scratched his head with an innocent look. I honestly thought it was just flour. Seeing the next answer pop up, he raised an eyebrow. Oh, T-Bull Rom's area is the knife zone. He immediately repeated it in pure shock. Knife, he froze as he realized something. Is not that a hidden zone? I don't care. Its cardio quickly sent a short message. My condolences. Home Protector took the chance to state his location as well. I am in the cigarette zone. Hayden quietly came to a conclusion. Just as I guessed, based on the way he talks, he definitely landed in an easy zone. Thinking about his future plans, he thought to himself. Do not die on me, Home Protector, because I still have some business to settle with you while you are alive. The corners of Hayden's mouth curled up slightly. At least I kind of like his carefree attitude. He maintained his stance. My condolences, he could not help but sigh. T-Balram must be having a miserable time, the knife zone is no joke. Suddenly remembering they were missing someone, Home Protector asked. By the way, which zone did Dentist get transported into? Dentist read through the entire chat and calmly replied, do you guys actually believe any of that? He glanced over the messages that just popped up. Why doesn't T-Balram just say it himself? The caution in Dentist's eyes became even more obvious. Why should I trust you people enough to reveal my zone? He quietly observed that reaction. Totally different from the others, this guy is on extremely high alert. Sensing the tense atmosphere, God stepped in to explain. Dentist, do you not know that Dopamine Addict was the first person to clear every single zone? Do not miss this chance to exchange info with him. He continued, trying to guess the other guy's identity. Did you just enter a safe zone recently? Are you a newbie? He calmly analyzed the situation. Regardless, until the second apocalypse begins, we have no way to contact anyone in the other zones anyway. Thinking about that, Hayden quickly weighed his options. So it would not matter if he told us where he is, but since he reacted like that, Dentist immediately looked confused. What is a safe zone? I am a dentist. He quickly confirmed his theory. He really is a complete newbie. Home Protector could not hide his surprise. Dentist, you are a newbie? God was instantly thrilled. Oh my god, this is my first time seeing a total newbie, he also chimed in. Wow, he really is a beginner. Hayden quietly watched everyone's reactions. Look at how hyped all these veterans are. His mind quickly pieced together all the clues. Now that I think about it, there was a dental clinic right next to that convenience store. This guy probably just dropped by the store and got dragged right into this mess. The two remaining areas are Candy and Unicorn, and there is no way a normal person could survive in the Unicorn zone. After thinking it over, Hayden reached a conclusion, which means Dentist's area is definitely the Candy zone. The guy still had no idea what anyone was talking about. What is a newbie? Hearing about that zone, God gave a slight nod. Candy, luckily that is a pretty safe zone to chat in. Home Protector also chimed in to confirm. He is definitely a newbie. He let out a laugh at that last question. You do not even know what a newbie is. Once everyone finished talking, he spoke up again. Thanks for answering everyone, but there is one more thing I want to ask. God asked back out of sheer curiosity. What is it? Hayden laid out his suspicions. Honestly, I suspect the condition to unlock the system is obtaining a meteorite item. Do any of you currently have a meteorite item? He was the first to reply. Oh, I actually have a pair of earrings made from a meteorite. Home Protector immediately remembered something too. So that is why the system unlocked. I have a handgun made from a meteorite. Possible suddenly recalled something he used yesterday. I came into contact with a submarine power source and it was a meteorite. I don't care, its cardio was quick to answer as well. I have a dumbbell made from a meteorite too. Dentist recalled what happened earlier and said, our team leader told me to touch a rock, maybe that was a meteorite. Hearing that, Junkie was confused. Wait, unlocking the system has something to do with meteorites. Junkie scratched his head awkwardly and admitted. I do not really have anything you could call an item. Hayden quietly pieced together the information he just gathered. Some people actually own meteorite items, but others merely touched or came into contact with one. In other words, just making physical contact with a meteorite is enough to unlock the system. After a moment of thought, he asked his next question. By the way, have you guys run into any other players? He answered first. Other players, I have not met anyone yet. God calmly explained the situation on his end. I have quite a few players around me, but they all chose to serve me. He chimed in quickly too. There are a decent amount in the chick zone and we decided to team up. He replied honestly. This is the first time I am even hearing about other players. Possible let out a soft sigh. There used to be a few people in the beer zone, but now it is just me. Hayden silently cross-checked their stories. There are still other players in the chick zone and the love zone, but only one person managed to unlock the system. Another possibility quickly crossed his mind. If so, maybe there is another condition to unlock the system besides just touching a meteorite. Thinking about the zone they had zero info on, Hayden fell into deep thought. But why is the Unicorn Zone the only one where nobody has unlocked the system yet? I guess I will just have to figure out their plans slowly. Wrapping up the conversation, he let out a soft sigh. Looks like I will be losing sleep again tonight. Before leaving the chat room, Dopamine Addict dropped one last message. I am heading out for now. If anything comes up, just message me and I will help. Hayden looked at the message and burst out laughing. Are you not going to fall asleep in class tomorrow? A few days passed and the executive meeting was called once again. The room had barely fallen quiet when Borton spoke up, demanding to know if they had found the deserter's child yet. Another man shot back in anger, deserter. Calling a hero of the conquest, something like that is crossing the line. Borton coldly snapped back, hero. Isn't it a stretch to call a woman who abandoned this place and ran away a hero? The other man slammed the table and yelled, what did you just say? How dare you worship a woman who never even set foot on a battlefield? Borton's eyes suddenly turned icy as he glared back, what did you just say? A woman who never stepped foot on the battlefield. The argument quickly grew heated until Anton angrily slammed his fist on the table. He shouted in a cold voice, you senile old fools. How dare you raise your voices right in front of the commander? Once the room fell silent, Anton slowly continued, of course, I am also quite curious. He looked straight at the commander and asked, I wonder if in your eyes that woman is a deserter. Anton paused for a moment before asking, or is she a hero? Hayden smiled calmly and replied, perhaps my son will answer that for me. He gently raised his hand to introduce him. Right at that moment, the system notifications chimed repeatedly. The title effect Friend of Lunamun has been applied to the target. The title effect Friend of Lunamun has been applied to the target. The title effect Friend of Lunamun has been applied to the target. The notifications kept echoing. The title effect Friend of Lunamun has been applied to the target. Hayden formally introduced him, my son Hayden. Hayden quietly observed the room. He had mentally prepared himself for hostile stares, but dealing with an elite guard was something else. He never expected the pressure to be this overwhelming. Thinking about this setup, he could not help but admire it. More importantly, this was an incredibly clever move. Hayden quickly figured out his father's intention in introducing him right in the middle of this meeting. This was the executive boardroom and everyone present was a top leader in the Kola region. He secretly scanned each face in the room. Half of the executives belonged to Daphne's faction. The other half supported Hayden, those who had once fought side by side with Lunamun. The first scenario flashed through Hayden's mind. If he admitted that Lunamun was a deserter, the soldiers would immediately object and say, how could we ever trust the son of a deserter? He quickly thought of the consequences. He would lose the trust of Hayden's supporters. But if he called her a hero, Daphne's faction would refuse to follow him. However, Hayden soon realized the crux of the matter. Lunamun was not the main issue here. He calmly looked around the room and spoke up, whether you all see my mother as a deserter or a hero. He continued decisively, isn't the most important thing the fact that the commander is my father? Hayden already had a countermeasure in mind. To fight power, you have to strike back with power. Borton immediately sneered in mockery. How dare a filthy bastard with an unknown background speak up? His face turned freezing cold as he yelled, "What are you all just standing there for? Grab that brat right now." The moment Borton finished speaking, blood suddenly sprayed all over his body. Mosal quickly asked young Master Hatem, "Are you all right?" He calmly explained his actions. "I acted on impulse because I was worried you might get hurt." Hatem quietly turned to look at the man who was now standing completely still. Hatem looked down at his clothes and replied awkwardly, "Ah yes, but what should I do now? The clothes the commander gave me are all ruined." Mosal cast a brief glance at Hatem, his eyes full of scrutiny. He watched the others in silence, thinking that the officers' meeting had to end early after all. Anton looked over at Hatem with a deeply thoughtful gaze. After they left, Hayden spoke slowly. Someone died right in front of him, yet that boy did not even blink. He smiled in satisfaction. "I knew he was smart, but I never expected him to have guts like that." Hayden turned to look at Mosal. "I left him in your care for the past few days. What do you think of him?" He gave his assessment without hesitation. "I knew he was not ordinary, but he still far exceeded all my expectations." Mosal suddenly recalled the days he spent training him. He recounted everything he had witnessed. Not only did he master noble etiquette, but he also memorized the entire history of the Gutman family and the military structure in a very short time. He also paid close attention to the stories about Lady Daphne. Mosal shook his head in awe. His focus and memory are way beyond his years, but what shocked me the most. He paused for a moment before continuing was his shooting skill. Just remembering it made it hard for Mosal to believe I saw it with my own eyes, yet I still can hardly believe it. He slowly listed out every detail, his posture, his breathing, his composure, everything was as perfect as a seasoned veteran. In Mosal's memory, Hatem innocently asked, "Did I shoot that right?" He chuckled softly as he remembered those words, and yet he claimed it was his very first time holding a gun. He could not help but marvel to himself, a former South Korean soldier carrying the title of magic shooter. Though to be fair, it really was this body's first time holding a gun. Mosal continued to analyze the situation, but as long as you grasp the basic skills, anyone can hit the target. Even so, he still drew his own conclusion, but as for his marksmanship, I can only call it a natural gift. Mercer continued in a serious tone, "As you know, to protect our sector, shooting skills are a matter of life and death. Because if you do not hit the core," he stated firmly, "the monsters will not die." Finally, Mercer looked straight at Hayden and concluded, "That is why I believe young Master Hayden is an absolute necessity for the upcoming expedition." Hearing his own words, he suddenly froze. "What on earth am I saying to the commander's son?" He gave a slight nod of understanding, "So that is how it is." A thought flashed through Hayden's mind just as I expected. He could not help but think of someone else. The boy looked so much like her. Outside the shelter, pure white snow quietly blanketed the ground. A few soldiers gathered around to gossip. "Hey, did you hear someone actually died during the officers' meeting yesterday?" Another quickly chimed in, "I heard Director Mercer shot Lieutenant General Botten dead." The last soldier's eyes widened in shock. "What was it? A coup? He is going to be punished severely for that." The first guy quickly shook his head to explain, "Not at all. I heard Lieutenant General Botten was the one who crossed the line with Hayden first." Hearing this, the other man nodded. "Oh, really? Well, that changes everything." One of the soldiers suddenly remembered something else, but you will not believe how Hayden reacted. He lowered his voice. A man died right in front of him, and he only cared about his clothes getting dirty. In a flashback, Hayden sheepishly explained, "Ah, my apologies, I was just really startled earlier." Hearing this, one of the soldiers shivered. "What a total psycho." Another guy offered a different perspective, but come to think of it, I am not so sure. I heard he treats the cadet soldiers to a meal every month. Isn't he just trying to win them over? Either way, that kid is definitely not normal. Mercer slowly recounted the gossip he had just heard. "Those are the rumors currently spreading all over the sector about you." He quietly addressed the young man sitting across from him, young Master Hayden. Hayden could only force a bitter smile in his mind. Hearing it put like that, I really do sound like a psycho. Mercer let out a soft laugh, teasing him. "Well, they are not exactly wrong. All the officers were in an absolute panic, yet you were complaining about your outfit." Hayden calmly replied, "If you ask me, the guy who suddenly pulled out a gun and shot someone dead is a lot weirder." Hayden suddenly remembered something else. "By the way, let me ask you something." Hayden looked him dead in the eye. "You shooting that man was completely intentional, wasn't it?" Hearing that question, Mercer unconsciously stiffened for a brief moment. He quickly regained his composure. "I have no idea what you are talking about." Hayden quietly pieced everything together in his head. "It is quite simple." Hayden calmly analyzed the situation in his mind. The commander definitely wanted to kill anyone who dared to insult Luna. But he also clearly understood the man's difficult position as the supreme leader of an entire sector. He could not simply take a side. All the pieces of the puzzle finally fell into place, and then his biological son showed up, handing him the absolute perfect excuse to make a move. Hayden imagined the commander's inner thoughts. "Anyone who dares to insult my son." He quickly finished the thought, "will pay for it with their life." Having worked it all out, he slowly voiced his deduction. "The commander must have made a prior agreement with you that anyone who shows me disrespect, you have full permission to kill." Hayden continued to explain, "Normally people would keep gossiping about this sudden illegitimate child for a long time, but thanks to your little mutiny, all that chatter has mostly died down." Mercer looked at him with deep amusement, a very fascinating theory, but I am also part of the faction that supports Daphne. Don't you think you are trusting me a bit too much? Hayden smiled, completely unbothered. It is true that I am Luna Moon's son naturally. I will always be a thorn in the side of Daphne's supporters. He calmly continued, but I am also the commander's son and I have already made a promise to him. Hayden's gaze turned resolute. I am going to become Commander Hayden's successor. He slowly stated the rest of his goal, and at the same time, I will return Lady Daphne's freedom to her. Hayden looked Mercer dead in the eye. What I trust is your absolute loyalty to Lady Daphne. Mercer could not hide his admiration. I already suspected it back in the meeting room, but your political instincts are truly razor-sharp. Suddenly, remembering something else, Mercer asked, by the way, I heard you are throwing a feast for the cadet soldiers once a month. Hayden muttered to himself, no point in hiding it now. Hayden nodded in confirmation. That is right, I will be hosting one very soon. Mercer asked with curiosity, do you have a specific plan in mind yet? Hayden was slightly taken aback to think Mercer would actually take the initiative to ask about his plans. Hayden quickly picked up on the shift in attitude. He is starting to take a liking to me. He began explaining his idea. I am planning to personally prepare the food for the feast. Mercer gave an approving nod. Cooking a meal is definitely the most classic way to win people over. Hayden chuckled inwardly. As expected, Mercer saw right through it. He knew exactly what he needed. What I need right now is not blind obedience but genuine respect. The whispers were still spreading in the shadows. Do we really have to take orders from him? He comes from a completely different world than us, growing up with a silver spoon in his mouth. Hayden calmly reflected on this. A bond maintained entirely by force will never last. He already had a clear plan formulated in his mind. That is why starting now, I am going to show them that I am on their side, so that when the real apocalypse finally arrives, they will follow my orders without a single moment of hesitation. Mercer gave a slight nod in agreement. He offered to help, asking what he could do for him, whether it was picking the menu or running the kitchen. Hayden replied without a second thought, hunting. Moso looked a bit dazed. Excuse me. He smiled faintly, looking at him with absolute calmness. Hayden slowly made his intentions clear, saying they should start by going hunting. Moso rubbed his forehead in total helplessness, muttering that it was pure madness. He continued to argue against the plan, asking if he really planned to leave the safe zone with just one gun. Seeing him still walking away so casually, Moso called out loudly, asking if young Master Hayden was even listening. Hayden just replied softly, telling Moso to quiet down since it was just a hunting trip and no big deal. He kept arguing, insisting that young Master Hayden was absolutely not allowed to get hurt. Hearing that, Hayden paused in surprise, asking if Moso was actually worried about him. Moso immediately made the reason clear, saying that if the young master got hurt, the commander would kill him. The image of the commander suddenly flashed in his mind furiously, asking how he dared to let his son get hurt. Hayden suddenly changed his mind. Thinking it over, he calmly explained that fetching the ingredients himself would show much more sincerity. Hayden had his own calculations in mind, stating he planned to personally prepare the food for the party. Moso nodded slightly and sighed, admitting he completely agreed with that part. But he seriously analyzed the situation, pointing out that Hayden had no shooting experience and this was his first time hunting. He stressed that if an accident happened, just to show sincerity, he would be the one bearing all the blame. He remained completely calm, saying he was the commander's son, so a little hunting was no big deal. Moso immediately shook his head in protest, begging him to stop using that excuse. Hayden smiled with full confidence, bragging that he used to hunt prey that could be caught without a gun. He told Moso to just hide behind him if he was that scared of monsters. Moso immediately glared at him angrily, asking when he ever said he was scared. Hayden secretly kept his true plan to himself, thinking that hunting alone was actually much easier, but the reason he purposely dragged this loudmouth along was so that Moso could be his witness later when he took down the monster. He glanced slightly ahead. Hayden curled his lips into a smirk. Moso suddenly spoke up to warn him, pointing forward and saying it was a horned rabbit, the perfect size for hunting. He shook his head in denial, saying that was not his prey. Moso grew even more confused, asking what on earth he planned to hunt if not that. Suddenly noticing something unusual, he lowered his voice and called out for young Master Hayden. Hayden immediately pressed a finger to his lips, shushing him and warning that even a single noise would scare the monster away. Moso suddenly noticed the bleeding wound on his hand. Hayden narrowed his eyes at the bushes, whispering that it was here. He immediately tensed up and asked what it was. As soon as he saw the figure clearly, Moso froze, shocked to see a hippopig. His expression instantly changed, wondering why this species was here when they rarely appeared near humans. He warned young Master Hayden that it could be incredibly dangerous. He just softly told him to calm down. Hayden quickly recalled his knowledge about this monster, knowing Moso was right that hippopigs rarely showed themselves voluntarily. An information panel appeared before his eyes detailing a medium-sized hippopig, classified as a monster with a hippo body and pig legs, an extremely sensitive sense of smell, and mainly hunting small monsters. Hayden calmly analyzed that they only hunted small prey like horned rabbits and almost never confronted stronger opponents. He suddenly understood his intention. He asked if he purposely let his blood flow earlier to lure it out, and wondered why he did not just use the horned rabbit as bait. Hayden shook his head slightly to explain, saying its sense of smell was very sensitive, so the smell of gunpowder would make it run away if he shot the rabbit. His eyes never left the prey as he told Moso to step back, saying it was more important. Hayden quickly assessed the situation, noting that even though hippopigs usually avoided humans, it was just the two of them here. A system sound echoed in his mind, activating the Magic Marksman title. Hayden tightened his grip on the gun, noting that if one of them was injured, even the most cautious beast would attack on its own. He silently aimed at the target, urging it to come closer. Right then, a gunshot tore through the quiet, snowy air. Moso widened his eyes, staring in shock at the scene right in front of him. Hayden lowered his gun, wondering if this was enough. Back at the shelter, the clear blue sky stretched wide over the white snow. Following the command, the soldiers quickly gathered in the large courtyard. He smiled at everyone, thanking them for accepting his invitation even though he could not prepare much. Hayden sincerely continued, saying there was plenty of pork belly for everyone to eat freely, and he hoped for their help in the coming days. After that, everyone gathered around eating and chatting lively. He calmly remarked that the guy did not even bother looking this way. The older man in the corner glanced over and replied that it made sense because unlike them, that guy could actually taste the food. Hayden spoke up while flipping the meat, saying his personality had not changed a bit and that he had already grilled a few pieces on this side. He looked down at the grill, pointing out that it was already cooked. A polite voice suddenly rang out from the front, greeting the guys. The older man in the corner jumped in surprise and turned around, exclaiming "Good heavens," and saying he startled him. He hurriedly introduced himself as Tibater, calling the guy Brother Corner and asking if he could call him Big Bro. He said he had heard of his reputation for a long time. He immediately frowned, demanding who gave him permission to call him bro. He then asked Tabata why he did not make this guy enlist, asking how their situations were any different. Hayden calmly explained that he used to be a soldier while the other guy had never enlisted, asking if he even knew how to use a gun now. Tabata let out a confused laugh, telling him to come on and asking if he was joking. He said he should at least know how to hold a gun, pointing out that he was obviously a player too. The older man in the corner panicked and lowered his voice, telling the fool to watch his mouth unless he wanted everyone to know he was a player. He immediately bowed his head, apologizing right away. He waved it off casually. "I do not think anyone heard us, so just drop it. Give me your progress reports now. Taejong Taesi, you go first." He snapped to attention. "Yes, sir." Taejong Taesi Beyonce began his report. "Right now I am working as a servant in the commander's mansion. Since I am still young, the older staff treat me really well." Hayden pressed for more details. "Did you pick up on any important news?" He nodded. "Oh, I actually did." Taejong Tae's Beyonce lowered his voice. "Lieutenant General Jadu." He finished his sentence with a secretive tone. "He is having an affair." He sighed helplessly and turned to the next guy. "What about you, corner boss? Any news on the extermination war?" He replied with a serious tone. "I heard that we might get deployed in the next extermination war." Taejong Tae's Beyonce blinked in confusion. "Us." Hayden quickly ran the numbers in his head. Normally, the extermination war only starts when most of the snow has melted. When I went hunting with Mason, the snow was still incredibly thick, so there should still be some time before the next battle. Corner boss looked over at him. "Did you find anything?" Hayden gave a slight nod. "I did, but before that." He pulled out a ring and held it up. "Both of you try touching this item." He picked up the ring to inspect it. "An item, is this not just a regular ring?" Taejong Tae's Beyonce asked curiously. "Did someone give this to you?" Seeing absolutely no reaction, Hayden let out a soft sigh. "Looks like it does not work." He slowly explained his discovery. "Actually, I recently unlocked the system. I still need to check the other zones to be absolutely sure, but it seems like most people unlock the system by touching a special item." Hayden continued his deduction. "But based on how it works, it seems like only one person in each zone can actually unlock the system." Corner boss immediately panicked. "Then what about someone like me who has nothing? What am I supposed to do?" He calmly reassured him. "Just relax." Hayden explained further. "It only unlocks the character profile, the inventory, and the chat room." Right then, a system notification chimed. "Dopamine Addict has joined the public chat room." He continued his analysis. "Honestly, the chat function is the only useful feature." Hayden glanced at the current user list. There are exactly 8 people in the public chat room right now. From that, he quickly drew a conclusion. In other words, there are players in the other zones too. Corner boss suddenly thought of someone. If that is the case, he immediately asked. "Dopamine Addict must be out there somewhere, right? What zone did that bastard end up in?" Hayden thought to himself in confusion. "Why is he suddenly looking for me?" He gave a slight shake of his head. "Everyone is hiding their information, so I do not know yet." A sudden thought flashed through Hayden's mind. "Maybe it is time to reveal my identity. If I can make them owe me a favor, it will be much easier to use them later." Corner boss still looked incredibly annoyed. There is no way that rude jerk would ever reveal himself. He could only force a bitter smile. "Actually, I was the one who spoke first." Taejong Taezi Beyonce looked around and commented. There are no other players left in the Eukola zone, right? We really are wiping the floor with everyone. Hayden gave a firm nod. That is right. I believe we are the only 3 players left in the Eukola zone. Suddenly, remembering another possibility, he paused, but Hayden slowly voiced his suspicion. Lunamun might have been a player too, Corner Boss asked in pure surprise. Are you saying Lunamun used to be a player? Hayden carefully explained his reasoning. I am still not entirely sure, but considering how everyone keeps saying I look exactly like Lunamun, I think she might be Asian just like us. He recalled the words he had heard before. From what I have seen, Hayden looks remarkably similar to Lunamun. Hayden brought up another clue. On top of that, she was known as the hero of the Conquest War. He repeated it softly, deep in thought. The hero of the Conquest War. Corner Boss immediately chimed in. Wait, is that not a title exclusive to players? Taejong Tae's Beyonce quickly backed him up. Yeah, I have never seen an NPC with the hero of the Conquest War title either. He brought up one more piece of evidence. But the most crucial clue of all, Hayden calmly continued, is that people say she had regenerative abilities just like us. A voice echoed in his mind. Because she also possessed a healing ability, Hayden let out a long sigh. It seems this world still holds a lot of secrets we know nothing about. The corner of his mouth curled into an excited smirk. Well, are you guys not thrilled? A totally hellish campaign is waiting for us. Corner Boss stared at him in utter disbelief. Look at that crazy bastard smiling. Taejong Taeze Beyonce patted his shoulder gently. Take it easy, little bro. Hayden just laughed awkwardly to himself. Honestly, you two are way more terrifying. However, something else was still bothering him. Actually, Lunamun is not the only thing that surprised me. Taejong Tae's Beyonce looked at Corner Boss with complete faith. I totally believe you are not a psychopath, bro. Hayden's gaze landed on the ring. Her ring. He quietly recalled its stats from the game. Back then it was just an ordinary item, but a system prompt flashed in Hayden's mind. The effect of the title Friend of Lunamun is now being applied to the target. He narrowed his eyes in deep thought. It seems like a hidden secret has been added to it in this world. Hayden remembered the exact feeling of holding the ring while standing next to the commander. The ring was warm, but the moment he walked away it instantly turned freezing cold. Thinking back on it, he could not help but make a connection. Almost as if it was sad to be apart from him, Hayden continued piecing the clues together. After all, the Friend of Lunamun title is something that only works on NPCs. A wild theory slowly began to form in his head. If that is true, could the consciousness of an NPC actually be living inside this ring? An indescribable rush of emotion suddenly swelled inside Hayden's chest. Just who could it be? Who is making me feel this overwhelming sense of longing? Corner Boss suddenly realized another possibility. But wait, what if? He looked at him seriously. What if this world isn't exactly like the game, just like you said? Corner's expression grew even heavier. Then doesn't that make all of our strategies completely useless? Hayden calmly shook his head. No, the strategies still work. I already told you players who fail the campaign will die. He was still troubled. Then what about Luana Mun? Did her settings just change on their own? He frowned slightly. That makes it even stranger. The timid rookie suddenly spoke up. Hey guys. He looked at the two of them thoughtfully. If Luana Moon really used to be a player, that means someone was brought here before us, so what happened to them? Corner's mind was completely spinning. The dungeon difficulty is crazy enough, but with players running around everywhere, an NPC might have actually been a player. He grabbed his head and groaned. My brain is about to explode, can't we just focus on stopping the apocalypse? He sighed helplessly. What a simpleton. Hayden patiently pulled the conversation back to their main goal. I only told you so you would be prepared right now. Our focus is joining the subjugation battle. Corner finally understood. Is that why you asked about the subjugation schedule earlier? The rookie nodded in agreement. We absolutely have to join the first subjugation battle, just making it out alive gets us a title. He firmly agreed. Exactly. Hayden quietly assessed the situation. It looked like Lubu's corner would join the subjugation battle without any issues. The rookie eagerly raised his hand. I want to join too. Corner immediately waved him off. How about you go instead of me? Hayden started scheming. I need to find a way to keep the rookie out of this. Hayden quickly weighed his backup plans. If both of us get into trouble during the first subjugation battle, we need at least one player left behind to clean up the mess. He smiled faintly at the thought. Well, I have no intention of dying easily anyway. Corner looked around the room and grumbled. Hey, could we not have talked outside? You didn't bring us all the way here just to show off your room, did you? Hayden calmly replied. Of course not. He then placed 2 plates in front of them. Hayden set out a few more things on the table, some cookies and forks. The two of them stared blankly at the remaining item. He calmly gestured to them. Starting today, we are going to practice how to eat, so grab a seat, you two. Corner stared back in utter disbelief. Practice eating, Hayden slowly explained. I ran a few experiments on my own. If you focus entirely on the act of eating, your recovery speed will actually increase. Corner immediately shot back. Then just use your hands to eat, what do we need plates for? Hearing that, Corner's face suddenly paled as if he just remembered something terrible. He calmly replied, well, if we want to test our recovery speed, we need to get injured first. Corner looked at him like he had completely lost his mind. Are you insane? Hayden kept explaining the perk mechanics. Thanks to the perk, we do not even need to chew the food, just gets absorbed automatically. Corner looked at him completely speechless. You really are an absolute psycho, Hayden calmly continued. If you stay focused while eating like this, he confidently stated his conclusion, your recovery speed will shoot straight up. Hayden looked at both of them dead serious. We still have some time before the subjugation battle, so shouldn't we start preparing right now? First, we need to train our most basic recovery skills. He casually offered them a knife. Come on and stab me, let the game begin. Corner frantically waved his hands. Wait, hold on a second. He kept backing away in panic. I already mastered my recovery skills, please do not drag me into this crazy training. Hayden raised an eyebrow. What do you mean mastered? Corner slowly explained himself. It is not about my recovery speed. He revealed his special trick. I can actually absorb food without even putting it in my mouth. The timid rookie's eyes went wide with amazement. That is incredible, man. How did you even figure that out? Corner scratched his head, feeling a bit shy. Well, you see, he slowly explained his past. I have been sick ever since I was a kid. Instead of eating, there were days I just laid in bed hooked up to an IV drip. I just remembered how that drip felt and tried to replicate it, and it actually worked. Corner could not hide his smug grin. Anyway, you look at it efficiency-wise, I am definitely one step ahead of everyone else, right? Even if my arm gets broken, as long as I can touch some food, I will heal right up. Hayden nodded slowly. Not bad at all. Corner stared at him blankly. Huh. Hayden instantly came up with a plan. If we all get completely wrecked out there, you can just heal yourself up first and then spoon-feed the rest of us. A deep sense of dread suddenly washed over Corner. Damn it, I have a really bad feeling about this. Hayden cheerfully finalized his decision. It is settled then, from now on, you are the official healer for our squad. Night eventually fell over the starry sky, leaving the surroundings in absolute silence. Hayden looked highly satisfied with what they accomplished today. Not a bad haul at all. He continued calculating his next moves. I never expected Lu Bu's Corner to have that kind of hidden talent. I wonder what kind of training I should put the rookie through. Right at that moment, a massive wave of system notifications popped up. You have received a friend request from Family Guardian, do you accept? You have received a friend request from God, do you accept? You have received a friend request from Not Crying Just Cardio, do you accept? You have received a friend request from Dentist, do you accept? Hayden paused for a second. Friend requests. He quickly made up his mind. They did mention that adding friends unlocks one-on-one private chats. I will just accept Family Guardian first, since he was the quickest to send one. The moment he accepted, the guy messaged him right away. Why did it take you so long to accept? Hayden was slightly taken aback. Man, he is fast. As soon as the chat opened, he got straight to the point. Tell me what you want and make it quick. The guy let out an awkward laugh. Wow, so cold, you do not secretly hate me for dragging everyone from the convenience store into this, do you? Hayden casually replied. I never said you were the one responsible for that. Family Guardian frantically tried to explain himself. Seriously, man, I never meant for things to turn out this way. Hayden swiftly cut him off. I asked what you want. He quickly got to the main point. Listen, you are planning to head over to the Chelan district later, right? Right after he said that, a new system notification popped up. Family Guardian wishes to initiate an item trade. Trade item 12 cigarettes, do you accept? Accept or decline? Hayden froze in surprise. An item trade. He quickly calculated the massive benefits of this new feature. I can actually trade with players from completely different districts. I obviously have to accept this. I had no idea adding friends unlocked a feature like this. The items safely transferred straight into his inventory. Family Guardian laughed and nervously admitted the truth. Honestly, I am just trying to suck up to you, man. I am giving you this now, so later when you build your shelter in the Quailan district, you better remember to take me with you, okay? Hayden quietly sized up his opponent. Having allies within the zone was important, but having allies in other zones was even more crucial. Smarter than I thought, he gave a slight nod. All right, I will think about it. The Family Guardian was overjoyed and kept thanking him. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much, that is a smart choice. After the conversation ended, Hayden kept thinking. Before I go to sleep, I should figure out how to make the most of this item trading feature. Just then, another system notification suddenly popped up. He furrowed his brows slightly. Is there something else? The system sent another alert. You have received a friend request from T-Bastard, do you accept? Hayden was a bit surprised. Wait, T-Bastard. The notification appeared again. You have received a friend request from T-Bastard, do you accept? He stared intently at the friend request window. A few new messages appeared in the chat. Dopamine Addict has accepted your friend request. Dopamine Addict has entered the private chat room. He spoke first, so you are finally willing to talk. T-Bastard stared at the screen with cold eyes. Dopamine addict, I really should have killed you before I died. Right after that, the steady sound of typing echoed outside the computer screen. He leaned back slightly. Hey, what nickname should I use? Someone next to him quickly chimed in. How about T-Bastard, the letter T plus bastard that is a pretty popular slang term lately? T-Bastard nodded in agreement. T-Bastard, that works. Memories of the past slowly surfaced in his mind. After leaving my organization, one of my underlings introduced me to the apocalyptic game called Safe Zone. T-Bastard recalled his early days playing the game. Unlike my boring everyday life, this game was incredibly realistic. What, a second apocalypse suddenly happened, you mean? I have to fight people from other zones. From this point on, surviving in the low difficulty zones will become extremely hard. At first he was really frustrated. Of course I was furious at first because not having an easy way out was just like my real life. T-Bastard gritted his teeth and cursed. Damn it. But he refused to give up. My stubborn pride kicked in, so I just kept playing. A victory message popped up. Chicken Zone conquered. T-Bastard remembered his journey clearing each area. So I cleared the candy zone, cola zone, cigarette zone, beer zone, and chicken zone one by one. Is that it? Then I started finding this game fun. But things quickly changed. The real problem started at the cocaine zone, since this game has no multiplayer mode. AI that learns from player tactical data will randomly appear instead. An information panel appeared before his eyes. Player AI by zone. Candy zone, family guardian AI. Cola zone, dopamine addict AI. Cigarette zone, family guardian AI. Beer zone, seems fine AI. Chicken zone, Taishan Tatse Pei AI. Cocaine zone, Me T Bastard. Knife zone, Yun Jong Wu AI. Love zone, dopamine addict AI. Unicorn zone, dopamine addict AI. T-Bastard stared intently at the data panel, but from the cocaine zone onwards almost everything was dominated by a single AI. He clenched his fists as he remembered that defeat. And I was completely crushed by it. T-Bastard gritted his teeth bitterly. Dopamine addict AI again. He still could not forget that feeling of defeat. It turned out that most of the people who cleared the zones were just copying the tactics of Dopamine Addict. No matter what, I wanted to land a hit on that punk. Not long after a new post appeared on the forum. While I held on to that determination, a guide for the knife zone was posted on the forum. The article title appeared on the computer screen. Dopamine Addict Starter Guide for the Hidden Safe Area Knife Zone. T-Bastard widened his eyes in shock. Did this maniac actually clear the knife zone too? He quickly regained his composure. This is not the time to be surprised. I have to be faster than everyone else. A single thought crossed his mind. If I become the second person to clear the knife zone, then T-Bastard will get to face Dopamine Addict right in the knife zone. Maybe I will actually manage to hit him once. With that resolve, he threw himself into the game. With just that thought in mind, I swallowed my pride and stayed up all night following Dopamine Addict's guide. Halfway through, T-Bastard could not help but curse. You have to see the endings of all the previous zones to unlock the knife zone. This guy is out of his mind. But by the time everything was done, it was too late. But when I finally unlocked the knife zone, Dopamine Addict had vanished from the internet. The only thing left behind, he just left the address of that convenience store. After that, all traces vanished, and then everyone who went there disappeared too. Suddenly, T-Bastard noticed a familiar face standing right in front of him. His pupils shrank slightly. That person could it be? The system quickly confirmed the identity. Tycon TCP. T-Bastard immediately asked, "Hey, are you not a national team athlete?" He smiled and nodded. "Yes, although I have been retired for a while now," he continued to ask. "Are you also a safe zone player?" The other guy calmly confirmed. "Yes, I am, Tycon TCP," T-Bastard muttered to himself. A hardcore fan of Dopamine Addict. After chatting for a bit, he made a decision. After talking for a while, I grabbed a knife and went to the checkout counter. T-Bastard placed the knife on the counter. "Ring this up for me." He already had a plan in his head. The reason I chose the knife was simple: to be prepared for any unexpected situations. The cashier looked at the knife in confusion. "Are you really choosing that knife? Seriously, think it over?" T-Bastard did not understand what the guy was hinting at. "But why is this guy suddenly picking a fight with me?" he impatiently urged. "Just ring it up." The cashier suddenly gave a strange smile. "You are the first customer to choose the knife, just take it." T-Bastard kept quietly observing his surroundings. Other than that weird part-time worker, everything was completely normal. Where did all the missing people go anyway? He muttered a confusing remark. Idiot. Right after that, he suddenly froze as the scenery around him began to spin. T-Bastard widened his eyes in shock. Huh. He silently recalled. That was my last memory in reality. When he woke up, T-Bastard realized his body had changed. When I opened my eyes again, I was inside the body of a 10-year-old kid. Something worse quickly followed, and I was dropped into the knife zone. A man looked at him with hungry eyes. It has been a long time since we had some fresh meat. T-Bastard remembered that hellish time. While being tortured by those crazy killers, a piece of the guide popped into his head. The crucial tip for conquering the knife zone, the one holding the knife meteorite item is the actual leader of this zone. Since he has a strong craving for young flesh, play dead to sneak in, then launch a surprise attack and steal the knife. T-Buster suddenly remembered where that guide came from, recalling the walkthrough that Dopamine Addict had posted online. Thanks to that guide, he actually had a chance to fight back. It was the only reason he managed to steal the meteorite knife. But the price he paid was incredibly steep. The injuries he took during the fight were just too severe. T-Buster searched desperately for something to eat. He needed food to heal, but there was almost zero real food in that place, mostly because those absolute lunatics survived by eating human flesh. He opened the chat window and sent a message saying he probably wouldn't make it to kill him after all. Dopamine Addict replied immediately, asking if he messed up the guide. T-Buster gritted his teeth and typed back that he couldn't find any food, and even though this was just a game, he wasn't about to resort to cannibalism. He waited and waited for a response. He wondered what that bastard would even do in a situation like this. Damn it, the guy was just leaving him on read. T-Buster felt his consciousness fading. If this kept up, he was actually going to die. Just then, a system notification popped up. Dopamine Addict had sent an item trade request. The item was 15 cookies. He stared at the screen in disbelief, wondering what the hell this was. Dopamine Addict sent a mocking message saying he was about to die, and since he felt bad that T-Buster couldn't even enjoy the game, he sent some food. T-Buster ground his teeth in fury. He swore that if he survived, he would kill him, but he also mocked him back, saying there was no way Dopamine Addict could wipe out everyone in this zone before the second apocalypse started anyway. Hatem replied calmly, saying he only wrote that guide as a warning. He admitted it was impossible to pull off in that zone, especially in the body of a 10-year-old kid. How could anyone wipe out all those monsters like that? Hatem kept teasing him, pointing out that T-Buster acted like he did not care, but he actually studied the guide pretty damn closely, did he not? T-Buster cursed him under his breath, thinking Dopamine Addict was the absolute worst. Hatem smiled to himself. It seemed the guy still had enough energy to get angry. That was good, he just needed him to stay alive, even if it was just out of pure spite and a desire for revenge. He quietly calculated his next move. Once T-Buster survived, he would have something very important to bring him. At that exact moment, a new system notification rang out in the Love Zone. The Lord stood silently in front of the camp, gazing off into the distance. A follower nervously spoke up, asking the shaman what the Lord had said. She slowly relayed the divine message, claiming, the Lord said he had given a revelation to him, but he had ignored it. Her voice grew heavy, stating that Lord Dopamine Addict was not going to help them. She glanced quietly at her system interface. He still had not accepted her friend request. The notification was still floating right in front of her, showing a pending request sent to Dopamine Addict. She thought to herself, wondering if he assumed he already got all the information he needed from them. The corner of her mouth curled up into a smirk. But that feeling goes both ways, Dopamine Addict. She calmly analyzed the situation. If Dopamine Addict had spawned in his main base, the Unicorn Zone, none of them would stand a chance against him. But right now he was stuck in the Cola Zone. She clenched her fists tightly. And this was the Love Zone, the one place where she could use her abilities to the fullest. Memories of her past flooded back. Before possessing this body, she was a shaman. Well, a total fraud of a shaman, honestly. She had never even gone through the initiation ritual. But she knew exactly how to manipulate people. She had quickly figured out the rules of this area. The core condition to clear this zone was ironically love. She remembered how she started. Luckily, she was the first to grab a meteorite item and unlock the status window. By pretending her status screen was a divine revelation from the gods, she easily won over the love and devotion of the other players. The followers suddenly panicked, crying out, and asking if Lord Dopamine Addict was really abandoning them, and if that meant they were all going to die. She smiled and reassured the crowd, telling them not to be silly. Even without Dopamine Addict, they still had her, the one who could hear the voice of God. Deep down, she was absolutely certain that Dopamine Addict would not just abandon the other players. She turned and gave an order to her followers, telling them to listen closely. In 10 years, the messenger of God would descend and punish the faithless. She commanded them to spread that rumor across the entire Love Zone. She secretly calculated her next move. Anyone holding a meteorite item was about to be in a lot of danger. She raised her voice, sounding like a true prophet. She declared that God always gave the harshest trials to his most beloved children, even if everyone treated them like some crazy cult right now. Once the second apocalypse began in 10 years, everything would change. A vision of the future flashed in her mind. When that time came, she smiled with absolute confidence. The entire Love Zone would be kneeling at their feet. She looked off into the distance again, silently promising Dopamine Addict that this game would not be as easy as he thought. Once everything was ready, Hatem gave the signal with a cold voice. He gave the command, and Taejongtaes instantly bolted from the starting line. Go. After the training session, Hatem gave Taejongtaes a rare compliment, asking if he used to be an athlete. He told him his agility was seriously impressive. Taejongtaes ran over and replied that yeah, he did play sports for a while, but Hatem was way more amazing than him. They had a little chat about their lives before getting ice-kai'd. He asked if Hatem used to do sports too, like competitive shooting. Hatem shook his head, mocking himself, saying nope, he was just a useless, unemployed loser. But somehow, that just made Taejong-tae admire him even more. He gasped, saying that an unemployed guy with those kind of skills meant he was literally born for greatness. The blind praise made Hatem not know whether to laugh or cry. He bluntly told him to go run 10 more laps. Taejong-tae froze, completely dumbfounded. Hatem quickly changed his mind and said make it 20 laps. Taejong-tae went pale, desperately begging him to wait a minute. Throughout the whole training process, Hatem constantly reminded himself of one thing. First of all, titles did absolutely nothing to increase physical stats. At the end of the day, if he did not train, he was still just a normal 10-year-old kid. He looked at his highly rewarding titles like the first to conquer all zones, or the ones listed in the system: Friend of Luna, Moon Poison Expert, Undying Commander, Bane of the Goodman Family, and Hero of the Annihilation War. All those titles only boosted NPC affection or skill proficiency. They did not do a single thing for his actual physical strength. But there was one question everyone was wondering about. Why exactly was his aim so insanely accurate? The answer was pretty simple. He had a very handy title called Magic Sniper, which you could get by one-shotting a monster's core 10 times in a row. When equipped, the first 6 shots would absolutely never miss their target. However, the 7th shot would always hit the person the player cared about the most. It was all because he was using that Magic Sniper title. As long as he had this title equipped, he could hit any target flawlessly, but only for those first 6 shots. Because every reward comes with its own risk. And with this skill, the price to pay is incredibly high. The 7th bullet carries a curse that forces it to hit the most important person to me. Hayden was thinking as he ran, causing his breathing to fall slightly out of rhythm. Thinking it over, I already fired 3 shots at the targets and 1 shot at the giant hippo, so that means I only have 2 safe shots left. If I fire the 7th bullet, it will aim straight for the commander or whoever has the highest affection for me right now. I have to limit using this title as much as possible, or better yet, just stop using it altogether. If only I had never met Moso. Without him, I would not have wasted my bullets on those practice targets. The reason is that he got suspicious back then and told me, how am I supposed to know how well you shoot, young master? Try shooting from the furthest distance this time. Hayden thought about it and found an excuse to reassure himself if the commander gets shot later on, it will be Mr. Moso who is at fault. Just then, Taejong-tae called out right next to his ear. Brother, have you been listening to me at all? What are you thinking about so deeply? Hayden stopped, his face going completely blank. Oh, I am still listening. But there was no way he could hide it from him, as it was clearly a lie. Even so, Taejong-tae just accepted it. Okay, then I will say it again. Training for too long will reduce our efficiency. Maybe we should try interval training, cutting down the time but increasing the intensity. This idea made Hayden nod in praise, as expected of an athlete. Suddenly, Taejong-tae sounded a bit down. I also want to manage my diet, but that is probably hard to do around here. After realizing something, Hayden excitedly spoke up. Oh, that is right. The boy's mood was also instantly lifted. Huh, what is it? The loaf of bread on the ground gave him a bold idea. Besides training, there is another way to recover HP. Moso stopped writing and looked up from his work. Military rations. Hayden smiled and nodded in confirmation. Yeah, we are grounded anyway. It is not like we have anything else to do. It turned out he had discovered a hidden secret after finishing his morning workout and testing out various foods. Meat recovered more energy than biscuits, and compressed foods like canned goods or jerky were much more effective than fresh meat. Hayden realized they had a significantly better recovery rate. When it comes to compact and easy-to-carry food, nothing beats military rations. After explaining his thought process, Hayden tried to take full advantage of the situation. Do you have any leftover military rations? Even expired ones are fine. He quickly ran through the possibilities in his mind. I cannot absorb rocks, but I want to see what happens with spoiled food. Moso paused his hand over a page in his book, clearly hesitating. Without saying a word, he simply stood straight up. Moso walked past Hayden and tossed back a remark. I have no idea why you suddenly want to find rations, but I happen to have a few things to check as well. Do you want to come to the research lab with me? He froze for a second, full of suspicion. Check what exactly? But in the end, he nodded in agreement. Sure, let us go. Very soon after, the two of them arrived at the research facility, officially known as the Safe Zone Security Research Institute. This is where all military supplies other than weapons are developed, such as military rations and uniforms. Moso introduced the pieces of meat on a tray. This is jerky, one of our rations made from monster meat. We happen to have a little left over, so please give it a taste. Hayden slowly and carefully inspected it. It is bigger than I thought. Following the invitation, he tried taking a small bite out of the corner. Hayden immediately looked disgusted. It tastes like chewing on a combat boot that has not been washed for years. Moso got quite defensive upon hearing that feedback. Have you ever eaten combat boots before? Hayden chewed a few more times and shook his head. Of course not. In his mind, he secretly thought, I am just repeating a line from the game. Right at that moment, the door to the research lab was pushed open. The young master is visiting. An older man walked in drenched in sweat and visibly tense. Are you really here to see our military rations? He was the director of the research institute. Without waiting for anyone to speak, the director expressed his sheer excitement. Finally, someone understands the importance of our food supply. It has been less than 100 years since the famine after the apocalypse, and we could absolutely fall into another food crisis. He dropped all his paperwork and clutched his head in frustration. That is why we have to prepare right now, but food research is always pushed to the side. Mozo felt quite helpless at that overreaction, as most old folks who lived through the apocalypse act exactly like this. Hayden could only hum in polite agreement. Ah, he helped the director carefully pick up each report. I think you are absolutely right, director. The old man was in slight disbelief. Young master. Hayden smiled with a look of absolute sincerity. My only dream is to eat proper meals. If this can help ensure that no one ever goes hungry again in the future, then I will fully support you, director. The director was so deeply moved that he teared up. I heard you invited kids your own age to share a meal, but I never expected you to have such profound thoughts. Taking advantage of the moment, Hayden added on. There is one more thing. Hayden picked up the piece of jerky, still in its research phase. I do not want my friends to go hungry during the subjugation war. Because of that, we need a type of ration that is smaller and lighter than this one. Can you make something like that? The director could not hold back his emotion. Our research lab possesses top-tier freeze-drying technology. It is just that no one has ever asked us to improve the rations before. He held up the piece of meat and made a firm promise. Please trust me on this. I will absolutely never let you down, young master. Hayden smiled, secretly satisfied with himself. Good, please create the most powerful military ration. After that meeting, the director personally walked out to see Moso and him off. When it was just the two of them, Moso finally spoke up to clarify things. So what is your true purpose for developing these rations? By using those two boys you called to your room, you are checking on the condition of the child soldiers, are you not? Hearing this, Hayden realized one thing clearly. Even though they pretend not to care on the surface, someone is definitely still keeping a close eye on me. Moso continued speaking his mind. Other than the commander and Madame Daphne, I honestly thought everyone else was a complete fool. I never expected that a 10-year-old boy would give me the feeling that in the very distant future you will end up becoming my superior. Hayden was taken aback for a moment by that honest remark. He quietly sized Moso up. It was surprising that a die-hard Daphne fan would say something so respectable. Hayden let out a breath and smiled, asking if he wanted to switch sides now. Morso instantly flared up and asked what he meant. On their way back, they ran into a situation. Someone announced they were conducting a search. Unlike other places, leaving the research institute meant passing a checkpoint to ensure no documents were smuggled out. A guard at the exit was doing his job and asked the next person to step forward. He kept it brief, saying he would just do a quick pat-down. The guy was incredibly focused and thorough. He was actually the son of Lieutenant General Boston, who died just a few days ago. The image of the late general flashed through Hayden's mind. Standing face to face, Morso bowed his head and offered his condolences for the young man's father. The guard shook his head in gratitude. He said it was fine and that he was the one who should apologize for causing trouble the other day, then told them the search was done and they could go. Morso walked away without looking back. He casually mentioned that the guard was Bostom's son, the man he took out a few days ago, just to give Hayden some peace of mind. Hayden, on the other hand, could not help but pay close attention to the boy. Bostom had abandoned the kid right after he was born, yet in the end the son still shed tears for him as a father. Morso let out a sigh and said it was for the best anyway. Hayden was a bit confused and asked what he meant. Morso darkened his expression and revealed the truth. He had orders to eliminate the boy immediately if he showed any signs of holding a grudge against the young master. But after testing the waters, it seemed the kid held no hatred at all. Hayden was completely speechless for a moment. So that was what Morso was really checking. The man truly never missed a single detail. Thinking back on it, everyone had been unusually quiet ever since that incident. Whenever they crossed paths with Hayden, they would just pretend they did not see him. He needed to figure out what the higher-ups were actually thinking about him. That was the only way to tell his allies apart from his enemies. If they were going to keep hiding from him like this, then maybe Hayden would just have to pay each of them a personal visit. On a beautiful morning in the officers' meeting room, one of the men broke the ice. He asked if everyone had seen the news. The medium-class monster that kid brought back was no joke. That pig hippo really left quite an impression. Of course they saw it. A supporter from Daphne's faction quickly chimed in. He argued that even if the commander wanted to build up his son's reputation, giving a mission like that to a 10-year-old kid was just completely absurd. A fierce argument broke out instantly. Someone questioned if people really believed that was the commander's order, pointing out that Director Morso accompanying the boy was proof enough. But another dissenting voice chimed in. They disagreed, arguing that even though the boy was young, there was something deeply unsettling about him. Anton stayed completely silent as they argued back and forth. They noted how a man died right in front of the kid and he did not even bat an eye. After a long while, Anton finally asked a question that stopped everyone in their tracks. He pointed out that the only thing that truly mattered was whether the boy was a threat to Lady Daphne. One of the men frowned and asked if Lady Daphne had said anything about it. Anton simply shook his head, saying she had not spoken up yet. Tapping his finger lightly against the table, he guessed she was probably taking her time to figure out exactly how to deal with the brat. Lady Daphne definitely knew he was no ordinary kid. Not only had he drawn in his own supporters, but he also cemented his position by providing food for the kids his age. He asked the room if they truly believed the boy was doing all this just to get some recognition. Was that really all there was to it? He was absolutely aiming for a much bigger target. Just then, someone pushed the meeting room doors open. The leader of Haydam's faction walked in holding a stack of files. He sarcastically asked if they were really having a gathering without bothering to invite his side. He glanced around the room and let out a mocking remark. He asked why everyone was suddenly so quiet, wondering if they were discussing something they wanted to keep a secret. Anton shot a sharp glare at the faction leader, smoothly lying that they were simply talking about young Master Haydam and his incredible hunting skills. The man casually pulled out a chair and sat down, agreeing with a light chuckle. Handing out a few documents, the faction leader boldly stated that he was already looking forward to joining the boy on a subjugation campaign. He added that if the commander allowed it, there was still so much he wanted to teach the young master. Anton smirked, thinking to himself that a subjugation campaign was exactly what those fools were scheming. He felt like he finally saw right through their plan. How could they even consider sending a child out onto the battlefield? Anton immediately formed a new plan in his mind, vowing that whatever they were plotting, he would never let things go their way. Someone chimed in with support, calling them a bunch of hopeless warmongers. This instantly provoked the opposing side. They furiously yelled back, asking who they were calling warmongers when they had risked their lives to protect the sector without getting a single word of thanks. Right at that moment, a soldier rushed frantically into the high-level meeting room to report an emergency. He delivered some absolutely shocking news. Young Master Haydam had just climbed over the wall of Lady Daphne's estate. Back in his room, Haydam had been brainstorming his next move. Calling each faction in separately was just way too much of a hassle. That was when he came up with a brilliant and bold idea. He wondered how he could possibly get all the leaders from both sides in the same place at once. The answer was actually quite simple. He just had to mess with the one person no one dared to touch, Lady Daphne. This news sent Anton and the other faction leader into an absolute panic. They freaked out, wondering what he was trying to do to Lady Daphne, and if the boy had any idea just how dangerous such a reckless stunt was. Meanwhile, Haydam was busy swinging from the estate's towering fence. To be fair, he had not actually planned on scaling the wall in the first place. But since every single one of his requests for a formal meeting was rejected, he was left with no choice but to take extreme measures. Haydam strolled inside with absolute confidence, looking around and admiring the incredibly grand estate. He'd only taken a few steps when a voice as soft as water echoed through the hall, pointing out that he was causing quite a massive uproar. From the top of the grand staircase, the delicate shoe of a woman elegantly stepped down. Its owner was none other than Daphne. "Do you have something urgent to tell me?" A system panel appeared with her information. Route name Mersault's wife. Route Haydam's bad ending. Equipment enchanting purple eyes. This player is using a different system version. Friend requests cannot be sent. Haydam froze for a moment. He thought she was an NPC. He quickly regained his composure and said hello. Seeing his reaction, Daphne also realized he was a player. That nickname is really weird. But her route name Mersault's wife. Route Haydam's bad ending. Haydam's bad ending, I've never heard of this route before. Haydam kept examining her. Looking at her reaction, she probably couldn't see his information. Could she be a player from an older version? Daphne walked up to him. "Why do you keep looking at me like that?" Haydam realized he was being a bit rude. "I'm sorry. That's a habit I picked up from Luna Moon. I mean, from my mother." He said seriously, "I know coming here uninvited is very rude, but I want to pass on my mother's dying words. Could we talk in private?" The maid cried out in panic. "What nonsense are you talking about? Get out of here right now." Unexpectedly, Daphne was intrigued and gave an order. "Everyone leave us for now. I want to speak with this child alone." Once the maid left, only she and Haydam remained in the room. Daphne carefully poured him a cup of tea. She didn't look at Haydam and just asked directly, "So what did Luna Moon want to tell me?" He stayed silent for a moment, thinking to himself. Daphne's supporters clearly hated Luna Moon, but Daphne herself didn't seem to feel that way. Haydam noticed Daphne constantly rubbing her hands together and came to a conclusion. She actually felt guilty. Thinking about it, it made sense. Luna Moon was the one Mersault loved, but Daphne was the one who ended up marrying him. That must have always weighed heavily on her mind. After a long while, Haydam finally spoke. "My mother." He didn't know what to say because he couldn't give the real reason. "Actually, I just intended to stir up the higher-ups, but I might just dig up some unexpected information here." Haydam then said something to comfort Daphne. "My mother said she forgave you." A second later, she lowered her head and denied it. "That's a lie. There's no way she could forgive me so easily. Even if it was just to clear the game, I was still the one who stole the man she loved." That phrase completely caught him off guard. Clear the game. In those few short seconds, Haydam's mind raced. Daphne and Lunamoon knew each other. Plus, Daphne was a player from a different version. That meant Lunamoon was also a player from another version. I need to dig up more information. He thought for a moment and said, my mother told me if Lady Daphne didn't believe it, I should tell you this. She waited seriously for his next words. She said, if I told you that you would tell me the truth. Haydam emphasized every single word, making Daphne blush. Mersault's wife. She was so flustered that steam practically came out of her ears. Wait a minute, I'll tell you everything. Seeing her expression left him a bit speechless, though he couldn't blame her for being embarrassed. Mersault's wife. Who comes up with a name like an elementary schooler? I need to be more careful when choosing a new nickname from now on. After taking a moment to calm down, Daphne was finally able to speak. I don't even know where to begin. The truth is neither Lunamoon nor I belong to this world. One day we just woke up inside a game. I know it's hard to believe, but it's the truth. Haydam took a sip of tea and thought to himself, of course I believe it. What he really wanted to know was which version of Safe Zone she had been dragged into. Safe Zone is a game series with a very long history. It originally started as a pixel graphics game. By 2026, a new version was released. Now the series has both console and online versions. A strange glint flashed in his eyes. The version I played was the latest one. If the game Daphne got sucked into wasn't the same version as mine, then it's very likely there are other players out there from different versions. Haydam asked a question. When was the version you played released? Yet Daphne didn't suspect a thing. Even if I told you, you probably wouldn't know it. A huge bunch of question marks popped up in his head. Is Safe Zone really that hard to talk about? To push her further, Haydam played the pity card. Alright then. Every day I wonder about what my mother wanted to say back in the slums, but if you don't want to tell me, then forget it. At this point, Daphne had to bite the bullet and confess. It was an adult game. Haydam listened intently. An adult game? She explained it in the easiest way possible. A dating game with handsome middle-aged men. Haydam was dumbfounded by that answer. A dating game. At the same time, Merkel received the news. Young Master Haydam is currently inside Lady Daphne's mansion. After an internal struggle, Daphne finally revealed it. You probably won't understand what this means, Haydam. Let me explain it simply. Middle-aged men dating simulator. Middle-aged men dating simulator. That was the name of the game I played. It featured a lot of handsome middle-aged men, and it was a dating game set in an apocalyptic military world. Middle-aged men dating simulator, and back then an account messaged her. Haydam Goodman, hey, are you okay? From that very first message, I loved a character in there so much that I played it every single day. But I could never reach him as he was an uncapturable side character. And then an unexpected event occurred. Someone urgently begged Lady Daphne to please take it and use it. That was the very first time she offered her handkerchief to Merso. He refused, saying he was covered in mud and feared he would ruin the handkerchief. In that moment, her youthful heart skipped a beat as she told him it was perfectly fine and to just take it. Hearing this, Haydam slowly began to piece things together. If that was the case, Daphne gazed into the distance and agreed. She spoke of her feelings with pure sincerity, confessing that the one she truly loved was Merso. A moment later, he carefully shifted the conversation. He asked if completing the game meant going through with the marriage to the commander. Daphne grew visibly uncomfortable, admitting she simply had no other choice. If you do not reach an ending within 1 year, you will die. She sighed as she recalled staring helplessly at the system window, demanding she marry an NPC. She explained that it was the very first quest she received upon waking up in that body. At the time, the only possible marriage candidates were the commander and Haydam. But in a twist of terrible fate, she had possessed the body of the commander's daughter. A wave of regret washed over Daphne again as she explained that choosing Haydam was her only option. Haydam nodded in understanding, realizing that it all made sense. Daphne had been dragged into this world through a different game, but aside from a few minor details, the characters and setting were nearly identical to Safe Zone. He had always believed he was just trapped inside a game, but there was a chance someone had actually built a game based on this very reality. Despite this wild theory, Haydam forced himself to stay grounded. It was just speculation, of course, but one thing was absolutely certain about the person who dragged them here. They were a complete lunatic who loved watching people suffer. Marry an NPC or die. He enjoyed a good thrill too, but never to the point of dragging innocent people into a death trap. He fell silent, wondering what he would do if he ever found the person behind all this. Daphne spoke up in a soft voice, thanking him for listening. She confessed that even though she had survived, she still carried so many regrets. She just wanted to stay by Merso for a little while longer, but her own greed had completely ruined all of her relationships. She claimed she no longer cared if she lived or died as long as she could avoid marrying Haydam. Daphne poured her heart out, explaining how she tried to fix everything and thought things were getting better. But the very next day, Lunamoon vanished. And just like that, she was left completely alone in that massive estate. A deep sorrow lingered in her eyes, as she admitted she could not easily believe Lunamoon had truly forgiven her. Haydam stared at his own reflection in his teacup. He understood where she was coming from, knowing he would not have forgiven her easily either. He took a slow sip of his tea as doubts began to fill his mind. But something still felt slightly off. Daphne had already promised Luna Moon she would not marry Hayden, so there was no reason for Luna Moon to leave. She could have easily stayed and married Hayden herself. A sudden realization flashed in his eyes. Unless there was something else. Despite her fragile appearance, Daphne had somehow survived in the heart of this military faction for 10 long years. It was highly possible she was lying through her teeth. But whether she was telling the truth or simply using her supporters to force Luna Moon out, it did not really matter. Hayden subconsciously glanced over at Daphne and asked himself why, and he was sharp enough to figure out the answer. It was all because of that incredibly genuine title, the wife of Mersault. As long as her devotion to Mersault remained strong, she would never dare to cross him while Mersault was still on his side. If that was the case. Reaching a conclusion, Hayden softly called out to Lady Daphne. He then made an incredibly bizarre offer promising to help her divorce his father. Daphne was thoroughly confused and started to ask why he was suddenly bringing up a divorce. But before she could even finish her sentence, Hayden cut her off, saying it was a given. He gave a meaningful smile and added that it came with the condition that she help him in return. Daphne's eyes widened in sheer surprise for a brief moment. But she soon realized this was her only chance at redemption, so she asked what she needed to do. After their intense conversation, Hayden walked alone down the long, quiet hallway. He could not stop thinking about his options. If Daphne was truly on his side, helping her get a divorce would be a breeze. After all, he still had his final reward out of the 3 to use. He could only imagine how her supporters would react, as they were probably losing their minds right now. And he knew he would be hearing an earful soon, with people calling him crazy and asking what on earth he was thinking. But no matter what happened, he thought back to Hayden's words. When the time is right, I will tell you everything I know. From this, Hayden was 90% sure of the truth. The commander probably knew Luna Moon's real identity. He placed his hand on the doorknob and took a deep breath. From now on, I need to be a lot more careful because I have to act as Luna Moon's son, not just a player. At least until I have this entire territory right in the palm of my hand. The first thing Hayden saw was Moso's panicked face. Young Master Hayden looked completely speechless. Looking at him, Hayden could not help but judge him a little. Is this really that handsome middle-aged guy? Moso had no idea what was going on. Huh. Right then, Anton's thunderous voice boomed through the hall. Just what do you think you are doing? Barging straight into Lady Daphne's mansion and kicking out all the servants. His face darkened with erupting rage. What could possibly be so important that you had to act so rudely? I demand an explanation, Hayden thought to himself. Wow, he is really mad. He paused for a moment to plan his next move. Well, if you really want to know, I will tell you. Hayden solemnly placed a hand over his heart. I swore on my mother's name that I would help Lord Hayden and Lady Daphne get a divorce. I just made the promise, so I was just about to leave. Moso froze as shocked whispers filled the room. What did you just say, divorce? What is the meaning of this? Anton barked angrily. What were you thinking? What if the commander hears about this? Hayden's deep voice suddenly cut through the noise. What if I hear about it? Is there something I should not know? The atmosphere instantly grew incredibly tense. Commander, Hayden walked right up to Hayden and stared at him in silence. Hayden gave him a simple answer. I was just having a chat with Lady Daphne. I did not do anything wrong, so do not worry. Lady Daphne already forgave me for dropping by unannounced. Hayden turned away and scoffed. You make it sound like her forgiveness is all that matters. He openly scolded him in front of everyone. You are wrong, Hayden. In this territory, absolutely everything requires my permission. In other words, if I do not allow it, then anything you do is going to be a problem. Moso felt a brief wave of discomfort at Hayden's overwhelming authority. Hayden, on the other hand, did not push back at all. Instead, a new idea sparked in his mind. So that means as long as I get your permission, I can cause a little trouble, right? He treated it like a special privilege and bowed his head. All right, I understand. I will keep that in mind. Can I go back to my room now? Hayden purposely emphasized his last word to test his reaction. Father, Hayden hid his cute little burst of excitement and replied in a fake cold tone. Yes, you may go. As late afternoon set in the chaos of the day seemed to be temporarily resolved. Moso nagged Hayden the entire walk back. Do you have any idea how worried I was? The commander has always treated Lady Daphne with the utmost respect. You should be thankful it ended this smoothly. Suddenly, Hayden stopped in his tracks and spoke up. Oh right, speaking of Lady Daphne. He stole a glance at Moso's expression. She told me she wants a divorce. For a split second, Moso froze up like a lagging computer. Huh, without giving him a chance to respond, Hayden just kept going. I totally agreed with her, so I offered to help. This time, Hayden completely turned around to face him directly. Oh, and one more thing. He shrugged, dropping an absolute bombshell on Moso. She is looking for someone to remarry. The more he spoke, the more agitated Moso became. What did she say again? I think she asked me to help her find a good man. I guess she has no one else to talk to about this. Oh well, what can I do? I just have to do my best to help her out. It was so obvious that neither of them knew how the other felt, yet they still cared for each other deeply. Playing matchmaker for these two is going to be a piece of cake, but Moso suddenly spoke up. Young Master Hatem. Seeing his blushing face, Hatem thought to himself, it is so rare to see him look like that. Still, Moso managed to drop a shocking question. Then what do I have to do to qualify as a candidate? Hearing that Hatem could only sigh inwardly. Oh man, you have got to be kidding me. Hatem immediately took advantage of the situation. First of all, you need to start treating me better. Moso nodded along like he was hypnotized. Yes, sir. Hatem cringed at the sudden display of lovesickness. Wipe that look off your face, you are being way too obvious. He would have to figure out a new plan because meeting her in secret was definitely out of the question now. The rumors about Hatem causing a scene at Daphne's mansion died down pretty quickly. As the mountain snow had almost entirely melted away, it signaled that the subjugation campaign was about to begin. With time running short and the workload piling up, everyone was incredibly busy with the preparations. Since Hatem also planned to join the campaign, he was about to be up to his neck in work too. Hatem's eyes widened in shock when he got the news from Hayden. What did you just say? Hayden was buried in paperwork and did not even bother looking up. I said you are forbidden from joining the hunt. Hatem looked visibly annoyed. Now what is this all about? All his plans seemed to fall apart before the official subjugation war even began. I was going to train Meersalt, but the guy in the corner got a bit jealous. What about me? Hayden reminded him, you have to start with basic military training first. Setting him aside for a moment, I was also planning to go hunting with Meersalt. Hayden spoke up to explain, this is the time when hungry monsters start coming out to look for food, it is too dangerous. Hatem understood the issue as soon as he heard it. It seemed he could not even step a foot outside. He absolutely refused to give up. Then how am I supposed to prepare for the upcoming subjugation war? The older man was quite surprised. The subjugation war? You are almost old enough to enter the military academy. After graduating, you can join as many subjugations as you want. I cannot let an inexperienced rookie go out to the battlefield. Hatem felt a brief wave of anxiety. The military academy, that place where you have to study for 6 years just to graduate. Thinking that he asked directly, why did you decide this on your own without asking for my opinion? Hayden did not really care and switched to a more important topic. Dabney told me that you two talked about Lunamun. Hatem was not scared at all and confirmed it. Yes, we did talk. Is there a problem? He went straight to the point. Then you must have also heard that Lunamun is a player. Despite being a bit surprised, Hatem kept his usual expression. Yes, I heard that my mother is not from this world. He thought to himself. So, the commander knows too. Hayden began to recount his past experiences. Lunamun was always someone who said unbelievable things. And precisely because of those words, I did not easily believe her. If I had known that I would never get to see her again after that, I would have listened to her more back then. There was a hint of regret in Hayden's voice. I told you that when the time is right, I will tell you everything. Why the person I married was Dabney and not Lunamun. His expression became noticeably darker. The one who wanted me to marry Dabney was actually Lunamun. Right after finding out she was pregnant, she left so I could marry Dabney and become the commander, leaving behind only a letter. I have so many things I want to ask her if I ever get to see her again, but right now I just feel grateful that I finally found you. Hayden returned to his usual cold demeanor. So you can cause as much trouble as you want, but you absolutely cannot participate in the subjugation war. Hayden felt utterly helpless. Talk about avoidant attachment. I never expected the commander to spoil his child this much. But thanks to that, I also learned that Dabney did not chase Lunamun away. I do not know why Lunamun wanted those two to get married, but the important thing is that in 10 years, the second apocalypse will begin. I cannot waste 6 years at the military academy. What a massive waste of time. I really want to tell him everything about the second apocalypse, but I would just be seen as a crazy person, and he loves me so much like his own son. However, if Hayden found out you are not my son, Meersalt shoot him. He would definitely send Hatem straight to the afterlife. Understood, sir. At that moment he could only scream, even you too, Meersalt. That was just Hatem's imagination. But in the worst-case scenario, things could entirely turn out like that. Besides, I cannot reveal that I am a player either. Is there a good way, a way to tell him about the second apocalypse without revealing my true identity? Ah, wait a minute. Hayden had nothing left to discuss. If you are done talking, you can leave. Hatem did not seem to want things to end there. Earlier you asked me if you told me everything, would I tell you everything about myself too? Are you not curious why I was not surprised at all, even after knowing my mother's true identity? He chose to face it directly. Truth is, I am a regressor. Of course, it is very hard to believe. The woman he loved was a player, and her son is a regressor from the future. Astonishment showed deep in Hayden's eyes. A regressor. He gave a slight nod as a confirmation. But regardless of their relationship, he would not be able to just ignore it. Hatem remembered his words from earlier. If I had known, that would be the last time seeing her. He understood one thing clearly because the commander had already lost Lunamun once. After waiting for a moment, Hayden's voice rang out. I will only ask you one thing. If you are truly a regressor, then why did you wait until now to reveal your identity? Hayden's face grew serious as he faced him. So you know that we do not have much time left. Hayden went from one surprise to another. What did you say? That way he will not take my words lightly. He revealed the story of the future that in 10 years the apocalypse will descend once again because he will not want to live in regret a second time. After that conversation, the door to Hayden's office opened again. He looked up. There was only a voice calling out, "Commander." Meersalt gave a serious salute. "My suspension period has ended today, so I am here to report my return." Hayden kept his usual cold demeanor. "Yeah, welcome back. But I heard you have been frequently visiting the research institute lately, is that right?" He was the type of person who still worked even while suspended. "Yes, I have a few things I want to develop." Meersalt quickly shifted to a more important topic. "Commander, I have something to ask. I heard that young Master Hayden will join the military academy's training program, is that true?" Hayden confirmed without any hesitation. "That is right today. I will meet the academy's director to set the training schedule." Hearing this, Meersalt was slightly hesitant. "Are you not worried?" He asked back. "Worried? Worried about what?" He voiced his own analysis. "It is true that Hayden has outstanding talent, but he is still just a child. Meanwhile, his sparring partners are all veteran cadets, just a single moment of carelessness, and Hayden could get seriously injured." Instead of worrying about his injured son, he focused on something else. How did the other officers react? Naturally, the answer was pretty obvious, not very well. Hayden quickly put his quill down on the desk. He leaned back in his chair. "Well, Mosul, we have known each other for many years. After years of facing countless enemies, I have come to realize one thing, and that is intuition." These vague words made Mosul a bit confused. "What do you mean by that?" He made his intentions clearer. "You know it too, right, that intuition can save or end countless lives?" Hayden thought to himself, "It is true at first, even I could not believe it." He kept remembering Haydam warning him in 10 years another apocalypse will strike again. At that time, Hayden was completely shocked. "Wait, there is going to be another apocalypse." He added seriously, "I know this is incredibly hard to believe, but those terrifying memories are still so vivid in my mind. After facing unavoidable death, I woke up in my own 10-year-old body." Haydam showed his desperation. "If this life is a second chance, then this time I will definitely stop the apocalypse." Normally, I would not have believed it, but his serious attitude made me pay attention. Instead of just repeating his claims, Haydam chose to prove it. "Do you not find it strange too, father? My mind is much more mature than my age, and I know way too much about the military." Hearing this, Hayden hesitantly asked, "What about the things that happen next then?" Not letting him finish, he cut in. "You probably want me to predict what happens next, but I cannot. Because after turning back time, the future has already started to change." A vague sense of unease slowly crept into my heart. "So instead of a prophecy, I will give you solid proof." The result was a request from Haydam. "Please let me join the military academy training exercise." Hayden did not expect his son to make such a bold choice. In this area, there is a place called the Kukula Military Academy. On the surface, the academy training program is publicly known for theory and combat practice to prepare against monsters. But in reality, there is another secret training program. Anti-human combat drills, simply put, it is human against human combat training. Because elite cadets clash directly with each other, the difficulty is extremely high. The preparation is as strict as a real military campaign. Because this place trains them to fight against other zones. This is a top-secret military training program, so all related information is strictly controlled. Hayden opened his eyes wide in shock. "How could someone who has lived on the outside like you know about this training course?" "Because this is a secret only I and a few high-ranking officers know about it." Haydam smiled and revealed more. "Because in the future I have already graduated from the military academy once. So instead of using vague prophecies, I will prove everything with my abilities. I will pass the training course with excellent results, so please believe me." A thought sparked in his mind. That was the moment I became even more certain I decided to trust this child. Back to the present facing Mosul, Hayden was completely calm. He said he wanted to join the training course, and I decided to support that choice. "Mosul, do you think I am letting personal feelings cloud my judgment?" Of course, I cannot deny that because Haydam is the son of Lunamoon and me. But there is more to it. I have a feeling that the time has come when guns and walls are no longer enough to protect this place. He felt a bit of a glare in his eyes now. "So trust my intuition this time. Who knows, the boy might truly become the hope of Kukula." It seemed like these words had also opened up a much brighter future. Very soon after that, Haydam arrived at the office of the military academy director. The man froze for a few seconds. He was the director of the military academy. Seeing this reaction, Haydam sighed inwardly. "Oh man." The academy director could not believe his ears. "What did you just say?" Blayton stepped up and answered for him. "I am saying we cannot allow a non-cadet to join the training course." Haydam glanced sideways and thought to himself, "I finally meet you, the nerd of the military academy." That was Blayton, son of General Anton, an outstanding cadet predicted to graduate at the top of the military academy. Even though his father was the leader of the faction supporting Dapley, he never used his family power to be arrogant. He also got along with the faction supporting Hayden, so he was highly respected by many cadets. However, Blayton firmly requested please reconsider. Haydam knew this boy very well. The problem was he was way too righteous to be a soldier. Blayton himself opposed him joining the military. We cannot let a kid who has not even enrolled join the training course. Haydam felt helpless against this stubbornness. No wonder everyone calls you a nerd. No matter how outstanding your grades are for a soldier, the most important thing is absolute obedience. Even the academy director was in disbelief. This is unbelievable. Can we not be a little flexible with the training? Even the commander has agreed. Unexpectedly, he remained serious with his decision. Director. Even though he is young master, Haydam is still a member of Kukula. How can you make such an insulting suggestion right in front of him? Haydam screamed inwardly, please calm down, young man. To the point where he had to speak up and confirm, I agree with that. Haydam said the rest to himself, of course I do not need any special treatment during the training either. Haydam turned and forced the academy director into a corner. Thank you for your concern, director, but I will pass. The old man stuttered for a moment, saying no, he was just worried. He confidently declared, I came here to see the actual strength of these elite students for myself. Blayton could not help but marvel at his boldness, thinking he was truly as eccentric as the rumors said. But Blayton still gave him a warning. Since this drill was basically real combat, he could get seriously hurt. Haydam bluntly replied, I do not care. Blayton looked him over and made his assessment. He figured that even if Haydam was weak, his desire to observe, learn, and improve was still worthy of praise. Since he could not talk him out of it, Blayton made a decision. He asked to be put on the same team as Haydam. If Haydam insisted on joining, they should at least balance the teams out. The academy director naturally agreed, praising it as a great idea. He genuinely cared, thinking this would give Haydam a chance to observe while keeping his risk of injury low. However, Haydam immediately shot the idea down, saying no thanks. Blayton tried to ease the tension. He explained that there was no shame in passing the training with the help of teammates, and that teamwork was very important. But Haydam was the one making things tense, completely brushing him off and saying that was not what he meant. He asked how he was supposed to prove he was better than Blayton if they were on the same team. He then glanced at Blayton and bluntly revealed his true intentions, saying he forgot to mention one thing. He came here to prove that he was way better than every single student at the academy. Honestly, he felt that studying there would just be a total waste of his time. It was a beautiful day in the forest, deep within the snowy mountains. The rules of the training exercise were very simple. To win a team either had to wipe out all their enemies or plant their flag on the enemy flagpole. The sensors on their training uniforms would detect any direct hits. If they took a fatal blow, they would be counted as dead, so they needed to be careful. Blayton spoke up after the briefing ended, asking the instructor a question. He pointed out that this was their usual training ground, but it was Haydam's first time there. To keep things fair, he suggested they move to a different training area. But just like always, Haydam smiled and turned down the offer, saying there was no need. He confidently stated that he would win no matter where they fought, so they should just stick to the place the students knew best. The other students stared at him in complete shock and disbelief. Haydam successfully pissed off the entire group. They angrily muttered, asking what that brat just said. The gossip quickly started spreading. They mocked him, asking if he thought he was a commander just because his dad was one. They wondered where he even got the nerve to act so wildly arrogant. One particularly cocky boy chimed in. He claimed Haydam refused to change locations on purpose just so he would have an excuse to blame the terrain when he inevitably lost. Blayton heard all of this and told everyone to calm down. He warned them not to talk behind someone's back if they did not have the guts to say it to their face. He added that Haydam going in solo was probably because he had no other choice. Blayton pictured Haydam pushing himself to the limit, wondering if he would really go all out on his own. Blayton gave them a serious reminder. First, no matter how skilled a team is, some people would rather fight alone than get dragged down by uncooperative teammates. Second, if Haydam got hurt during the training, the students who failed to protect him would be in massive trouble. At this point, Blayton looked up toward a high tree branch. And finally, his third point, Haydam had a small build, making it incredibly easy for him to use the terrain and obstacles to hide. In this situation, flying solo was actually a huge advantage. With all that in mind, there was only one target Haydam would go after. The whole group followed Blayton's gaze. He concluded that Haydam was aiming straight for their camp's flagpole. Since he could not possibly take them all down by himself, he would definitely wait for them to drop their guard and then steal the flag. Blayton's theory was that Haydam's arrogant taunts were just a cheap tactic to piss them off. If that was true, then his earlier disrespect completely made sense. The cocky boy looked thrilled at this theory, relieved that Haydam was not actually looking down on them. But seeing their reaction made Blayton reconsider. He thought to himself that no, Haydam probably just genuinely did not care about them at all. Pushing those thoughts aside, Blayton gave his team their orders. He told them that since Haydam was taking this training seriously, the least they could do was show some respect and go all out. He ordered them to march straight into Haydam's camp, but to make sure they were as loud and flashy as possible. While Haydam slipped past them to go for their flag, Blayton would wait in ambush and snipe him right out of the game. Blayton pushed up his glasses and finalized things, saying that was the plan. He raised his voice and declared, "Move out, let's flush the rabbit out of its hole." The rest of the team shouted in unison, "Sir, yes sir." The operation kicked off, and the group of 5 pushed forward toward their target. Meanwhile, Haddam sat on a branch and observed the situation. He frowned in confusion, asking what in the world they were doing. He could not make sense of their current strategy. He wondered why they were grouping up so tightly like a bunch of sitting ducks. With that in mind, Haddam got an idea. He smirked and decided it was a great time for a little warm-up. Down below, Clayton finally realized that something was terribly wrong. A rustling sound echoed through the forest. Bolton found a hiding spot but stayed on high alert. A thought flashed through his mind. He had just heard a warning shot. He is getting close, but I absolutely cannot let my guard down. Bolton remembered Anton warning him. Underestimating the boy just because he is 10 years old would only end in humiliation. He completely agreed with his father on this. The first time his father said that he wondered why he praised a 10-year-old kid so highly. How was he supposed to deal with that arrogant brat? But facing him now, he finally understood. That smile was not a sign of contempt, nor was it some tactical facade. Haydam was simply enjoying their reactions just like a predator playing with its prey. After waiting a moment, Bolton noticed something was wrong. Wait, why is it so quiet? He should have shown up by now. In the chaos, he had completely slipped away. Do not tell me he went after my teammates. A bullet grazed past Bolton, missing him by mere centimeters. A foot stepped out from the shadows. The person who fired that shot was none other than Haydam. That was a close one. Haydam thought to himself that Bolton really was on another level. Meanwhile, Bolton was deeply shaken. When did this kid even get here? Bolton quickly pressed himself against the wooden wall. He demanded to know how Haydam found his ambush spot. Haydam honestly replied that out of all the trainees attacking his camp, Bolton was the only one missing from his sight. That answer was not enough to satisfy his curiosity. He asked how Haydam knew he was not in the assault team when everyone was wearing tactical goggles and masks. All of this was just a strategy to stall for time. He still had a chance. He knew this terrain far better than his opponent. He just needed to drag out the conversation to pinpoint the exact location of Haydam. But when he peeked outside, he realized something was wrong. Haydam had vanished without a trace. He was gone. Another bullet rang out, hitting the very gun in his hands. Before he knew it, Haydam was standing right in front of him. You can hide your face, but you cannot hide your height or the way you run. Right after that, a rapid barrage of gunshots rang out. This cannot be happening. Bolton quickly aimed and fired back while moving. But the situation was pure chaos. Haydam had vanished again. While scanning the area, he spotted a gun lying in the snow. Wait, Haydam was small, making it incredibly easy for him to use the terrain and obstacles to hide. That is right. A smaller body meant he was much lighter. And being lighter made it nearly impossible to track his footsteps or the sounds of his movements. By the time Bolton figured it out, a dagger had already been driven into his body. The announcement blared through the speakers right after. Team A has been completely wiped out. Team B is the winner. They met up after the match ended. Bolton asked if he had taken out his entire team before coming after him. Haydam casually replied that he had already told him. He shook his water bottle and confidently stated that he alone was more than enough. I heard your specialty is long-range sniping, Bolton. You probably came up with this entire tactical plan yourself. A normal kid would never have been able to counter it. One of the main reasons I joined this exercise was to see your skills for myself, Bolton. Your quick judgment and ability to lead your teammates are impressive. His next words took Bolton completely by surprise. You pass my test, Bolton. Are you interested in working directly under me after you graduate? Morso tapped his hand lightly on the table. He reported that as ordered, he had gathered the trainees to evaluate how their training session with Haydam went. He then handed over a report compiled from all their feedback. Haydam carefully read through the file he had just received. First, it started with a boy. Case 1. I have never seen a 10-year-old act so cowardly. According to his story, Haydam had approached 2 trainees at the back of the line. The kid told them he had a secret message from the commander. He completely caught them off guard, and just like that, bang. The young man agitatedly explained. Startled by the gunshot, I turned around to look. Who would have thought the kid would suddenly collapse and pass out? He was left completely stunned by what had just happened. Did he seriously just pass out in the middle of a fight? But when I nervously approached it, the thing stabbed me right on the spot. Next was Case 2. Haydam looked exactly like a seasoned soldier. Predicting our movement route and coming up with a countermeasure, I think even a kid could do that. But Haydam carried out the mission with terrifying professionalism, without a single ounce of tension, looking completely at ease. It was almost as if he had fought us countless times already. Among the people interviewed, Mercer paid special attention to one person. That was a kid from Case 3. You are asking how good Haydam is. He was so serious without a hint of a lie. Haydam is a literal god. Back to the present, Mercer reached a conclusion. Although there were some eccentric opinions, I believe they were just amazed by Haydam's skills. He thought to himself, the commander probably ordered joint training just to show off his kid. I will just play along. After reading the 10 pages just now, Haydam called out softly, Mercer. He quickly replied, I am here. He decided right away, without a second thought, Hatem will command this subjugation campaign. Mercer's scream echoed throughout the building. What? Soon after that, Mercer came to meet Hatem. Are you asking if I intend to give up the command of this subjugation campaign? What is wrong? Are you afraid I will ruin your reputation? After the training ended, along with the permission to join the campaign from the commander, an order was issued giving me the position of commander-in-chief. Of course, to avoid a wave of backlash from other officers, Mercer was the one officially registered as the campaign commander, but the military background Mercer Benitez. He helplessly rubbed his forehead. You know very well that is not what I mean. Simulation training and actual combat are two completely different things. Of course, exactly as the cadet said, your skills are freakishly outstanding. Even the subjugation route you drew up yourself, that is a very hard area to grasp just by looking at a map, yet you understand it ridiculously well. Mercer drew a conclusion from his own observation. It is almost as if you have been there before. Hatem sighed and let out an exclamation. Is being able to read a map a little bit really that amazing? He decided to hide the secrets behind it. I have no intention of letting Mercer know that I am a regressor, but he keeps digging into it. Should I distract him with something else? So Hatem slammed his hand on the strategy table. Mercer, what we need to focus on right now is not the map but the inefficiency of the combat method. I heard that in subjugation campaigns people usually paralyze the monsters first and then find and destroy their magic stones. He quickly got caught up in this topic. That is right, because to pinpoint the magic stone we first have to restrict their movements. His next words completely shocked Mercer. Is that not an incredibly inefficient way to fight? If we just destroy the magic stones right from the start, we can skip the whole combat process. Faced with such an unconventional plan, Mercer frowned and reminded him. Hatem, the magic stone location is completely different for every monster. Small and medium ones have small bodies, so it is easy to find the spot, but for giant species, even guessing where it is located is hard. The monsters we face in subjugation campaigns are mostly giant species. Prioritizing destroying the magic stone, first like you said, is practically impossible. He seems pretty serious about this. Hatem momentarily curled his lips up into a smirk, however. He already had a calculation in mind. How many monsters have I taken down while sweeping all the areas? Magic stones are like a monster's fatal weakness, so they will be located in the safest spot on their bodies. For example, with horned monsters, the magic stone will be near the horn. Simply put, after playing through this countless times just by looking at a monster's footprint, I can already sense where the magic stone is. He casually blurted out a shocking statement. I can pinpoint the exact location of the magic stones. Mercer's pupils shrank significantly. What did you say? Hatem ignored him and continued speaking. Therefore, this subjugation campaign will be, finally making an arrogant declaration executed with high efficiency. As night fell, Hatem lay on his bed but still did not stop working. He remembered the morning conversation. Mercer looked completely full of disbelief. But for now I have already informed him of the plan, so that is that. Hatem raised his hand and lightly touched the system screen. More importantly, absolute possible. So that means there are 2 dopamine addicts. He felt a bit confused. What kind of nonsense is this again? Dozens of messages poured in. Home, protect, what are you even doing that you are completely ignoring the group chat? +6 Taibat, what exactly is your real identity? As he scrolled to this part, Hatem pondered. There are a ton of unread messages in the group chat. Did something happen? Let me check the message history first. Everything started with a message from the judging. I just received a very weird message. The judge, it was sent by someone calling themselves dopamine addict. Did anyone else get it? Hatem paid special attention to this information. Someone calling themselves dopamine addict. He remembered the first time waking up in this world. Chef John once impersonated him before. Is there another imposter showing up now? A few more messages popped up. Dentist, after seeing it, I am also torn on how to handle that. Home protect, it was sent to me as well. I don't cry, that's sorry. Scario, what message are you guys talking about? I do not see anything. Hatem nodded and observed further. It seems everyone received the same message. I don't cry, just cardio. Am I really the only one who did not get it? Homebrew tech, well, I thought it was just some fake account, so I did not even bother opening it. What did it say? Shin, I also thought it was way too sketchy, so I was going to ignore it, but hearing that everyone else got it makes me curious. I wonder who the sender is. Hey, listen to me, the root tree, I don't cry. Just, cardio already said they did not get it. The messages above made him somewhat curious, but what exactly did it say? Right then, the message sent to me from the account named Shin read like this. Shin can interact with all areas except for the unicorn zone. But the sender ID was dopamine addict. Hatem sprang up from his bed in shock. Wait, it was sent using my own ID. The chat room absolutely blew up in the middle of the night. The root tree, the one I got, was exactly the same. Dopamine addict can interact with all areas except for the unicorn zone. Homebrew tech, I already told you that is not dopamine addict. It is 100% an imposter. Since I am friends with dopamine addict, we should be able to chat one-on-one, but now I am blocked. Shin, you guys are friends. My friend request was just completely ignored. I don't cry, just cardio, but if that is the case, then who would send a message like that and for what purpose? Shin, good question. Theoretically, are we not unable to contact other zones until the second great disaster happens? He dug through his memories from before he transmigrated into the game. There was always a protective barrier between the zones, until the second great disaster struck. Sleuth Possible chimed in with another message, but who can really predict the unexpected? What if there were never any protective barriers between the zones in the first place? This also made Hayden start to feel suspicious. Thinking about it, he had never actually been to the border between the zones before either. I should take the chance to check it out during this expedition. However, the barrier issue could be put on hold for now. Anyway, why would a player from the Unicorn Zone pull a stunt like this? Dozens more discussion messages poured in. Shin, you all remember that this chat room is only for players who have unlocked the system, right? Dentist, if so, could the person who sent this message be a player from the Unicorn Zone? Shin, you are pretty sharp for a newbie. Exactly, because the only one left can only be a player from the Unicorn Zone. The root tree. But by the way, I just discovered something really weird. Everyone look at the member list in the public chat room. Reading Shin's message, Haidam also felt a bit curious. The chat room member list. He looked it over but did not see anything unusual. There were 8 people in total in the order they joined the public chat, which did not seem to be an issue. But then, I don't cry, just Cardio noticed something. Wait, it is not 8 people including me, but there are already 8 people not counting me. The root tree. I thought that person's name showed up twice right at the top, because they were the one who originally created this chat room. Haydam froze for a second. What does that mean? No way in everyone else's list this whole time have they been seeing 2 of my IDs displayed. If you select your own ID from the chat room list, your personal information will pop up. But if you select someone else's ID, it asks if you want to send a friend request to Dopamine Addict. He was suddenly terrified. Does this mean another player has been hiding here right from the very beginning? Haydam instantly felt incredibly tense. However, he did not rush to react. He needed to check the messages sent to the others first. There might just be some crucial information. Homebrew Tech, check the chat room right now. It is absolute chaos. Homebrew Tech, that is not you, right? Homebrew Tech, hurry up and check the chat. Homebrew Tech, what the hell are you doing not checking it yet? Haydam sent a reply. That is not me. Even though there were 2 accounts, he felt relieved for the moment. It seemed like there was nothing too critical. As for T-Pastor, Haydam suddenly caught sight of something and his eyes shot wide open. Dozens of messages had been sent. T-Pastor, Dopamine Addict, is that really not you? T-Pastor, if it is an imposter, then how could it know exactly about our one-on-one conversation? T-Pastor, we were already friends before, so I just assumed that guy was you. I even sent him messages to chat. T-Pastor, what is your true identity anyway? A thought flashed through Haidam's mind, befriending another Dopamine Addict. He stared at the name on the system panel. I am the one who wants to ask that question, Dopamine Addict. The corners of his mouth curled into a smile. Who exactly are you?